Greetings fellas, this is the part 4, of What If Female Deku, Ascend Beyond Human Limitation, Chapter 13, Rage. 1 hour to USJ assault, Katsuki woke up with Kirishima laying next to him. The redhead had spent the night with the blonde, they hadn't really done much but talk. Katsuki realized that they had a lot more in common than he thought. Both he and Kirishima had lost people, and blamed themselves. They both thought that their quirks lacked something. For Kirishima it was flashiness. For Bakugo, it was adaptability. He could use explosion to fight, but it didn't work for rescues. That, and One for All broke him every time he used it. Kirishima liked the same music as he did. Bakugo liked Kirishima's favorite foods. They were almost like brothers. But their affection made them more. Katsuki got up and got dressed. He brushed his teeth, poured some cereal for him and Kirishima. The redhead joined him downstairs, wearing an oversized hoodie. His hair wasn't spiked up, Katsuki thought it looked better that way. You know, you look hot like that. Yeah? Yeah. You want some cereal? I mean, we've got to eat for today, right? Kirishima smiled. Field trip, right? Bakugo nodded. I think you'll be good. I really need to nail this, my quirk isn't good in rescues. Kirishima kissed Bakugo on the cheek. You've got this. You two are dating? Mitsuki stood at the bottom of the stairs, her jaw had dropped to the floor. Shit. Oh, look at the time. Don't wanna be late. Bakugo yelped. Both he and Kirishima bolted out the door. You've got some explaining to do when you get back. Mitsuki called. Bakugo and Kirishima stepped out onto the sidewalk. Class 1A was wearing their hero costumes. Bakugo grinned. You ready to kill it? Tenya Ida, the class representative, stepped up in his suit of armor. We aren't killing anything. Kirishima rolled his eyes. You take everything too literally. As heroes we must make sure not to cause unnecessary deaths. The armored boy chopped his arm up and down. Shut up and follow me. Aizawa grumbled. The class followed the tired teacher into the building. The area was filled with multiple settings. A ship in a large pool, a burning city, a cliff that would shake every so often, a space surrounded in a wall of wind. Welcome to my rescue playground. A hero in a space suit walked forward. It's 13. The space hero. Okako Uraraka gushed. The hero nodded. Somehow. Welcome to the USJ. Before we get started, I have a point to make. Or two. Or three. Get on with it. Aizawa grumbled. Okay. First of all, my quirk is called Black Hole. I use it to rescue a lot of people, but Black Hole can easily be used to kill. Ru shuddered. The entire concept of the hero killing somebody terrified her. Just make sure to know your quirks. You can also easily kill with your powers. Blah blah blah. You talk too much. A voice cut in. The students looked around for the speaker. 13's eyes fell on a shadowed figure, sitting on an electric wire that controlled one of the zones. Who are you? 13? Is this in the plan? Aizawa reached for his scarf. No. 13 said. I've never seen that person before. Oh. I forgot to introduce myself. The figure giggled, reaching behind himself. 2 bunny ears appeared on their head. I'm Patchwork Bunny, and you all are now in our trap. Our trap? 13 questioned. You. Show your face. 13 pointed her hand at the figure and pulled them in with Black Hole. To his surprise, the figure leapt towards him. No. The space hero deactivated Black Hole. Aizawa went wide-eyed. 13. Don't. His warning came too late as the space hero was kicked across the USJ. The villain landed softly on their feet. A singular hollow green eye crinkled. Hello. We are the League of Villains. The students were dropped into a misty purple portal. Only a few remained at the entrance. Aizawa donned his goggles as an army of villains appeared on the main ground. Normally I wouldn't have students fight, But I don't think we have a choice. You have 13 with you. Defeat this one and make it out alive. Izuka giggled as the hero leapt into battle. The remainder of Class 1A muttered behind her. One of them made a beeline for the door. It was Tenya Ida. Izuka let him go. Tell the teachers we say hi. The other students took ready positions. You may be a killer, but you're only one of two. We'll take you down here. Hantasaro said, oh please. I kill heroes. Izuka laughed, before disappearing. Saro's eyes widened before a voice spoke up behind him. And you're just children. Saro whirled around just in time to catch a punch. His arms shook from the blow. Damn. I really hope that you were just going all out. Izuka smiled as Rikito Sato rushed in, muscles bulging. Saro. Out of the way. He just consumed half of his sugar stores. Okako Uraraka called. The boy grinned. You got it. Wouldn't want to be in the way of those punches. Sato was a blur of yellow as he unleashed an unending flurry of blows. Dust was kicked up from the force of each swing. You're done now. Saro grinned. Izuka caught Sato's fists. Like I said. Her arms buffed up slightly as she lifted the boy above her head. Children. Sato was hurled into the ground so hard that he bounced back up. Izuka whirled around and kicked him over to the side, where he passed out. Team up. Mina Ashido called. She, Okako, Saro, and Mezzo Shoji rushed Izuka. Izuka dodged a punch from Shoji. Saro shot tape at her legs. Reinforced bitch. Okako ran forward. All I need is one touch. Izuka was hit by Okako's quirk. She felt gravity lose its effect on her. We got her. Let's go check on 13 and Sato. Mina guarded the healer as they went to the aid of the injured. Interesting. Izuka muttered. What's interesting? The fact that kids were the ones who beat you? Saro spat. Izuka shook her head and chuckled. No. You're wrong there. You, gravity girl. Your quirk's touch-based, right? Okako froze up. So? Why would you need to? The students heard a shredding sound as Izuka tore through her bindings. No way. I made those as strong as I could. They should be like steel chains. And there's your problem. I can easily break steel. Izuka kicked off of the USJ wall, hurtling towards Okako, who put her hands up defensively. Izuka grabbed the girl's wrists and flipped over her, whipping the girl around and slamming her onto her back. Okako coughed up a bit of blood. Broke a few ribs there. Now. What's the word? Izuka slithered her weightless body atop Okako's. The scarred girl pressed the student's hands together and brought her face to her ear. Release. Okako's eyes widened as she felt her quirk deactivate. But why you shouldn't? You should learn more about your quirk, sweetie. Ignorance is easy to hijack. Izuka turned to Saro. And you? You try too hard to just restrain people. She appeared before the student. You should make sure that they're unconscious. Or dead. With a quick jab to the stomach, Saro was knocked out. Izuka heard a cry from the central area. She saw that every villain they had brought was down, save a few that had crawled out of the surrounding zones. Aizawa was busy, destroying the Namu. Bunny. We made a miscalculation. Erasure makes Namu dysfunctional. Kuragi reappeared next to Izuka. Send me in. Don't hurt these ones too much. Pardon? You need your strength for All Might. Besides, they can become the heroes in our world. Izuka was warped to Shigaraki's side. Both watched as the Namu was thrown into the wall of the USJ. Are you gonna do anything? Tamura scratched his neck. Do you want me to? Please. Izuka jumped in front of Eraserhead, who led with a scarf attack. Izuka caught the ends of the scarf in her hand and yanked hard, catching the hero by surprise. Eraserhead leapt in with a kick. Izuka countered with a knee. Aizawa's hair rose. Izuka saw a flash of red behind his goggles. Sorry, Eraser. Won't work on me. Izuka and Aizawa fought, matching the other's speed. But Izuka was slowly gaining ground. "You must be getting old, Eraser. I thought for sure you'd be tougher than this. Never fought anybody as experienced as you," Aizawa said. "But that changes nothing." The hero wrapped Izuka in his scarf. Izuka giggled and freed one arm. "Oh? I thought this would be more of Midnight's style." Izuka twirled around on her heels, wrapping the scarf around herself more. Aizawa was yanked towards her. Izuka caught the man and kissed him. "Huh. Coffee flavored." Aizawa leapt back, pulling his scarf with him. Izuka stumbled a bit as she was spun by the scarf. Regaining her balance quickly, she caught a kick from Eraserhead. "Maybe you're not as bad as I thought." Izuka grabbed Aizawa's ankle and hurled him towards Shigaraki, who grabbed his wrists. Shigaraki's eyes crinkled as his quirk failed to take effect. "You really are cool, Eraserhead." Aizawa leapt away from the villain. He rolled under an incoming swing from Izuka. The three fought back and forth. Izuka having fun toying with the hero, Shigaraki wondering why Izuka was holding back, and Aizawa defending his life. Aizawa was knocked back as the Nama hurtled into battle once more. An explosion rang through the USJ as three students flew into the central fight. Katsuki Bakugo, Ijiro Kirishima, and Shito Todoroki emerged onto the battlefield. Aizawa saw them and went to shout a warning, but was frozen by an intense pressure. Tamura turned white as he saw Izuka's pupil disappear. "Katsuki Bakugo." The girl disappeared in a gust of wind. Aizawa bolted in, to stop the villain from hurting his students. He jumped in front of Bakugo just in time to take an incredibly powerful punch to the chest. Aizawa gasped as his ribs cracked and he was thrown backwards. Despite his injuries, he leapt back in front of his students as the villain charged again. Eraserhead caught the villain's fist in his scarf. He noticed the villain's arms shake as they continued, pushing against him. Their eyes, filled with rage. The three students ignored the blood-killing aura emanating from the villain before them. "You bastards made the wrong move attacking our class." A wave of ice rolled towards Izuka, but was reduced to powder with a wave of a hand. An explosion enveloped the villain as Aizawa threw them back, but they leapt into it. "You three need to get out of here. This one's too dangerous." Izuka leapt at Bakugo with a snarl. Aizawa jumped in front of her again. "You won't harm my students. You're beginning to bore me." Izuka grabbed Aizawa's hair and threw him by it. The students readied themselves for an attack, but Izuka leapt past them, towards Aizawa. The hero defended himself desperately. Izuka landed hit after hit. Aizawa grunted as he felt his arm break from a kick. "What the hell are you? You can't be human." Izuka grabbed Aizawa by his hair again and ripped his goggles from his face. Aizawa saw Izuka's eye flash as she crushed the goggles in one hand. "I'm more." Izuka whipped the hero over her head and hurled him to the Namu, which landed a destructive punch that launched Aizawa into the wall of the USJ. "Shit. Sensei." Bakugo shouted. "That wasn't manly," Kirishima said, hardening his skin. "No. It won't be enough. I need to push past that level." Izuka watched as Kirishima's arms became more angular. His hands twisted into claws. The rest of him stayed the same. Partial unbreakability. Izuka flew towards Kirishima, who put up his arms quickly. Izuka landed a punch and a crack echoed through the USJ. A tiny fracture appeared on Kirishima's skin. The boy grunted as his left arm reverted to normal. A nasty gash covered his forearm. "One arm has to be enough." Kirishima panted. "I can't let you hurt them." Izuka blocked a weak attempt at a strike from the redhead, before grabbing him by the waist. Izuka threw the boy over to Aizawa. He was knocked unconscious as he landed. Todoroki launched volleys of ice at Izuka, who turned them to powder, easily. "Come on." He growled. "Fall already." A large glacier erupted from the ground, covering most of the battlefield. "Did I get them?" Izuka appeared before the student. I think you missed. She delivered a kick to his chin, sending him spinning away to the entrance. It was only Bakugo left. Izuka stalked forward. This will be fun. Izuka cracked her knuckles. A cry sounded from the edge of the battlefield. Suisui was pinned underneath a fish-like villain. Izuka whipped out a knife and threw it without looking. Her eye remained locked onto Katsuki's face. The knife embedded itself in the back of the man's head, and he fell to the ground, dead. The frog girl pushed the villain off of her and picked up Minoru Mineta, before dashing to the entrance. Tamura looked at the dead villain. Even among us. You were filth. Izuka leapt back to his side. Kuragi re-spiraled into existence beside her. The Namu lumbered back to join the three villains. You four are the powerhouses. Bakugo said. I can't wait to see how Sensei defeats you. The villains did look sinister, but the most sinister of them all was probably the odd one out. The shorter villain in a hoodie. They were terrifying, but seemed different from the other villains. Maybe it was the joking around? The scarred villain shuddered. He is here. The door to the USJ was blown off of its hinges as All Might walked into the facility. It's okay, students. There is no reason to fear. Bakugo felt the killing intent of the villains grow exponentially as the number one hero walked into the building. Because I am here. Bakugo looked at All Might and shook. The man wasn't smiling. On his face was an expression of pure, unbridled rage. The kind of rage that kills with a single look. Tamura giggled. Welcome All Might. Chapter 14: Your symbol of despair. The door to the USJ was blown away as All Might stalked into the building. Minoru Mineta shed tears of joy as he saw the symbol of peace. We're saved. Only then did Mineta realize. All Might wasn't smiling. The grapehead laughed maniacally. You villains are in for it now. All Might disappeared in a burst of wind. He suddenly appeared back at the stairs, holding Aizawa, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki. The villains that were recovering from Aizawa were floored once more. Young Bakugo. Take Aizawa to Ru. The other two will be fine until the other teachers get here. But what about All Might locked eyes with Bakugo? Go. Bakugo bolted up the stairs with Aizawa on his back. He quickly found the student healer and rushed Aizawa to her side. What the hell happened? That villain kicked our shit. All Might's got it now. Don't worry. Bakugo rushed back to the center of the USJ. He saw 3 of the 4 villains watching a battle between All Might and the 4th villain. The Namu third to overpower the pro hero, but All Might had gone full steam from the beginning. With 3 mighty blows, the Namu was sent flying out of the USJ. RRRRR. He's not any weaker. Shigaraki growled. Bakugo saw a portal begin to open. He launched himself at the purple mist villain. Sir. We need to off. Kuragi was pinned to the ground by Bakugo. One move at me and you won't have your escape gate. All Might walked towards the villains. Izuka stepped in front of Shigaraki, who was flexing his hands in preparation. There's no reason for that. I won't let us be taken today. All Might's eyes narrowed. Izuka appeared before him. Slightly startled by the villain's speed, All Might jumped back. You're fast. But are you fast enough? All Might leapt forward with a punch. Bakugo watched as the villain dodged a full-power Delaware smash with ease. No way. Izuka felt the wind coming off of All Might's fist as it passed over her face. Curving her spine back, she flipped backwards and kicked All Might's fist upwards, sending the shockwave into the air. All Might used the chance to try to knee Izuka, but she had flipped out of range. The number 1 hero rushed in once more and threw another punch, only to have it hit open air. The villain before him was gone. Duck, flip, sidestep, crouch. Izuka slipped behind All Might and began mimicking his movements, almost like a mime. The pro hero stopped, and she stopped. The hero turned and she leapt behind him, mimicking his stance. Duck, flip, sidestep, crouch. All Might tried to rush Shigaraki, but Izuka would grab him and turn him around, before hopping back into his blind spot. All Might. Behind you. Bakugo shouted. Izuka put her hands up as the hero turned full speed and punched her, sending her flying away. Now villain. Surrender. I don't think Shigaraki was cut off as a monstrous cackling sounded from where Patchwork Bunny had landed. A figure began, emerging from the dust cloud. Aizawa grunted as he stood up. He noticed Iru was looking a bit lightheaded. Rest. I'm fine now. Why, you sure? Yeah. I'm sure. Aizawa stood up and looked to the center of the USJ. He saw Izuka dodge every hit from All Might. That one's scary. The hero internally cheered as All Might landed a punch. The villain had to be down. No human could take a punch like that. Then again, the villain said they were more than human. Aizawa's face turned white as he saw the villain emerge from a large dust cloud. We're fucked. Strange. There's breaks or fractures. Maybe I gained some invulnerability. My arms are bruised though. Izuka smiled as she walked out of the dust cloud. Just a bit of bruising, a scrape here and there. Oh, All Might. Izuka giggled madly, as she came out of the dust cloud. It doesn't hurt. There's some damage. But it doesn't matter when I can't feel it. All Might. Hey hey. He. He really is cool. It almost feels like I'm facing a mountain. Izuka's giggle rose into a cackle as she held her hand up before her face. A bit of blood dripped from her fingertips. Beautiful. But then again. So powerful. Such strength. But, what's the number one hero when you've met death? Izuka's cackle grew louder and louder. She could hear it echo around the entire USJ. Izuka walked out of the dust cloud. Her hands scraped. Her left arm had some slight bruising. Her hoodie was reduced to shreds. You there? It is no small feat to take one of my punches. Who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Izuka let her cackle die down. She was nearly shaking in rage. We all have our ghosts. Do not speak in riddles. Who are you? We all have our ghosts. Izuka stepped forward, bloodlust dripping from her form. Izuka grabbed the tattered remains of her hoodie and tore them off, before looking at her hand once again. Are you a ghost? Izuka nodded. I like that. A ghost. Why didn't I think of it before? Izuka wiped her thumb over her lips, coating them perfectly in a layer of crimson blood. A ghost. But whose ghost? The girl looked into the faces of All Might and Bakugo. Your confusion is so delightful. To think that you wouldn't remember me. I don't remember meeting anybody like you. I remember every villain I've fought. I'll add yours to my book of villains I've detained. Izuka clutched her inner thigh. It makes me so hot when I hear people talking about their convictions. What will you do to me, All Might? Bakugo shouted at the villain. What do you think, bitch? Send you to Tartarus, where you'll be imprisoned forever. Izuka shuddered. Sounds kinky. But I have goals to accomplish here. I'm tired of this. Surrender now. All Might rushed in with a punch, which Izuka countered, before drawing her sword. Tell me, have you met the hero killer Stain? I have heard of him. Well duh, everybody has. I met him a time ago, watched him slice through the barrel of a gun with one of these. I wonder, what will a sword like this do to the symbol of peace? Izuka rushed forward with murder in her eyes. That's one crazy villain. Mina whistled. Aizawa nodded. This is the problem with modern societies. Tell me, what do you think of the quirkless? I mean, quirkless have potential too. Look at Yumi. She's quirkless, but really strong. Mina said. The quirkless need to be protected. They aren't strong enough to protect themselves. Sero countered. Gotta agree with Sero. Mineta said. Are you forgetting that Yumi kicked your ass? Mina raised an eyebrow. Hey. She's a special case. I wouldn't be so sure. Aizawa grumbled. The quirkless population is looked down on, and has been for years. Did you know that out of all of the suicides that happen worldwide in a year, 60% are quirkless? What? They aren't given the chances that could help them grow. There could be quirkless heroes, you just need to train hard. I mean, I technically fight quirkless. But you have a quirk that levels the playing field. I mastered control over it. A quirkless person who trains can be dangerous, because they don't have to worry about training something extra, like a power. While quirks have an advantage, a true hero can adapt to anything with just physical prowess. Heroes now. They rely too much on their quirks. Society has become drunk on the power wielded by the individual, and not the power wielded by the whole. So? A good quirk can be better than any physical prowess. Mina shook her head. But think about it. Then you'd waste all your time gaining control of that quirk. Not control of your physical fighting abilities. If you worked on both, you wouldn't be able to become a hero because you couldn't master both in time. That, and quirkless individuals are normally quirk nuts. Aizawa said. They have one wish, to be powerful. So they can end up studying every quirk they see. It becomes a habit. Then a lifestyle. It can easily be turned into a battle tactic. What does that have to do with society today? As I said before, we focus too much on quirks and great heroes, and not real problems. When a problem gets too out of hand, individuals emerge that create change. The problems you underestimate create the most chaos. Nobody expects a powerful quirkless person. And now, the problem's out of hand, I've seen two people emerge from it. A girl inventor, and a girl villain. Both bear similar scars, but are no different people. They both wield power unimaginable, with no quirk. Aizawa rubbed his temples. I've seen Yumi use some type of power. It isn't a quirk, but more of a human evolution. Think about her scar. It's definitely from an explosion. Don't you think an explosion should have blown her head off? It's almost as if she's grown to adapt to anything. She's undergone some sort of evolution. That would make them more than human. How can somebody accept that? Mina gasped. It's easy to accept something like that when you're treated as less than human for your entire life. Don't underestimate anybody, okay? If anything, that's what you should learn from this. Aizawa looked back to the fight. If you ignore problems, this is what happens. A figure of power comes forward. And this time, they may be impossible. Aizawa felt a slight trembling. I really hope that's who I think. Izuka took a punch from All Might directly to the chest. She laughed giddily as she tasted her own blood. Come on. You can do better than that. There's no way. Oh. I see you've figured it out. Izuka smiled at Bakugo, who had seen her tattoos. Izuka. You dare to utter my name. Izuka flew towards the boy and knocked him from Kurogiri. The misty villain warped to Shigaraki's side. Move. Now. The two villains warped out of the USJ. A purple portal remained for Izuka. And, you. Izuka turned. All Might shuddered. Her eye was filled with rage. The aura of hatred surrounding her was powerful enough to be visible. Dark green seemed to radiate off of her skin. How could you not remember? An image of the girl flashed through All Might's mind. And a quirkless person be a hero? All Might stumbled. His eyes wide. You. So I took your advice. I'm no hero. After all, a quirkless person can't be a hero. At least not in this society. I watched you die. And you did nothing. Why you died? I never found you in the hospital. Izuka smiled. I never went bang bang bang. Izuka leapt out of the way as 3 bullets embedded themselves in the broken floor of the USJ. They're here. The full staff of I rushed into the USJ. Battle ready. All teachers. Help All Might and Bakugo. Izuka saw Cementos and Ectoplasm rush him. You aren't getting away. Smash! Izuka's eye went wide as Bakugo leapt at her with All Might's power. No explosion. No. Explosion? Izuka felt Sypnopsis hit her with his quirk. Bakugo's punch hit her in the cheek. Izuka burst out of the cement and grabbed Katsuki by the neck, before hurling him at All Might, who caught the student. You dare tell me that more cement erupted around Izuka, sealing her in a massive block, which exploded in a flash of white light. Eraser. We need you to nullify her quirk. She doesn't have one. The heroes stopped. No quirk. A wave of killing intent washed through the USJ. Izuka's hair rose into the air. Her eye flashed. Her skin glowed dully. Ascension. Principal Nezu breathed. We've lost this fight, and most likely the world. Ectoplasm generated 50 clones and charged Izuka, who blasted them away with a yell. The teachers and students were floored by the incredible pressure radiating from Izuka. You hypocrite. You could give IT to people? All Might shook under the intense pressure. Izuka calmed down. Unfortunately, your life is not mine to claim. I'll see you on the battlefield. Izuka walked towards the portal. Izuka. Bakugo called. Shut up. Izuka snarled. Izuka died. I'm just a ghost. Your symbol of despair. The villain stepped through the portal, leaving a broken symbol of peace, and his broken successor. You managed to drive them off, All Might. Why do you look like Nezu saw All Might's expression? You haven't looked like this since Nana. Chio said quietly, before healing Bakugo, who curled up into a ball and sobbed. I've failed. I failed her. I failed that girl Nezu. Who was that All Might? Aizawa walked up to the group. I've never seen we all have our ghosts. Bakugo, come with me. The #1 hero scooped the sobbing student into his arms. I'm sorry. I failed you too. I'm as guilty as you are. Izuka stepped into Kurogiri's bar. Shigaraki was busy raging. He wasn't weaker. You lied, sensei. He was healed. Izuka said. His weak spot was completely healed. There's a student who did it. I'm sure you'd like them, sensei. The TV monitor crackled. Tell me more about this. Healer. Chapter 15:1 Who has ascended? Nezu walked up to the entrance of the tall office building in Mujutafu, Japan. He, Recovery Girl, and Eraserhead had tailed All Might and Bakugo to the building after what remained of the school day. The three heroes searched the large structure, before Nezu brought them back together. They're on the roof. Nezu, Chio, and Aizawa walked up to the top of the building, where both Toshinori and Katsuki sat with their legs dangling off the edge. The strange thing was, Toshinori wasn't holding his All Might form. Toshinori. The skeletal blonde man looked at the trio of heroes with solid eyes, before patting the space next to him. Come. Sit. The three heroes each grunted as they eased down. What a beautiful view. Chio whispered, as the sun set. The sky was lit up in a vibrant display of pinks and oranges. The group could see all the way to the water on Takoba Beach. Yeah. It is a nice view, isn't it? Bakugo said hoarsely. Mind telling us why you two are so upset? Nezu said. Toshinori winced. It's a long story. It begins here, in Mujutafu, on this very rooftop. What happened here? Wait, All Might. I'd better start. Bakugo said, clearing his throat. That villain was Izuka Midoriya. Izuka Midoriya was the daughter of the Midoriya family. Her mother Inko was best friends with my mother, so we lived as if we were cousins. We played together. We ate dinners together on weekends. We drew pictures and watched heroes together. But then, she changed? Aizawa wondered. Bakugo shook his head. No, I changed. I got my quirk, and she was declared quirkless, and that's when everything started to go downhill. I began bullying her. My mom confronted me about it a lot, but I didn't stop. For years she was there, always seeming to look down on me. I never realized that she was looking up to me. So? What happened next? Chio asked. 2 years ago, Inko passed away. Izuka's dad had left them and traveled overseas. Izuka ended up living on her own. She said that she didn't want to leave the family apartment, then 1 year after that, it got to be too much. What happened? The bullying had stopped for about a month after Inko's death, but then I went back to it. Some of the students at the middle school defended her after that, but for some reason, I just got angrier. Then, one day there was nobody there. And I told her to jump off of a building. Chio sighed, as did Nezu. Toshinori hugged the boy as Aizawa regarded them with calculating eyes. But that's not where the story ends. Is it All Might? Toshinori shook his head. No. That day, I met her. I saved her from a villain made completely out of sludge. As I leapt away, she grabbed onto me and hitched a ride. We landed right there. Toshinori lifted his hand and pointed to a small indent of 2 shoes on the rooftop. Then, she asked me if she could be a hero without a quirk. And you said no. Chio grunted. You never were one to make rational decisions. I was trying to keep her safe. Toshinori Yagi. Have you forgotten where you were before Nana? Chio's cane shook in her hand. You were quirkless too. I would think that someone like you would be able to see the world differently. I know like hell I know okay. I watched the life leave her eyes. Everybody fell silent. They weren't expecting Toshinori to yell like that. I'm sorry. It's fine, I shouldn't have lectured you like that, especially when you're in this state. Continue. Toshinori slowly nodded. After I said that she couldn't be a hero, I told her that she could become a doctor or a police officer. When I began walking to that stairwell, she said thank you, and that she had made her decision. I turned around to see her leap off of the building. Your time was up. Toshinori nodded. It had been. I had shown her my scar to try to dissuade her from being a hero. But then I watched as she broke. What happened then? I tried to keep her alive. She was still conscious, but her side had been destroyed by the fall. An ambulance came to pick her body up. I never found her in any hospital. Which means it wasn't a real ambulance. Those were villains. But then why would they save a dying girl? Toshinori shook his head. There are a lot of unanswered questions. Do you know anything about the power she wielded? Aizawa, you said it wasn't a quirk. We actually know somebody who can explain it better. You meet her tomorrow. She's a student at, Nezu said. Now, I think it's time for you both to go home. It's getting late. Wait, tomorrow? Didn't you cancel classes? Bakugo questioned. Nezu nodded. Yes, but this student is one of Power Loader's prized pupils. Both of his students were already joining the meeting being held tomorrow. Toshinori nodded. Okay then. Also, she bears some similarities to the villain yesterday. They aren't the same person. Power Loader had both students in the lab the whole day. Besides, those two record their work, so they showed a video of them from that day. Just a heads up. Toshinori nodded. Okay, noted. Thanks for listening to me. And young Bakugo. We'll be on our way now. Izuka sat on the bedside. The mission had been a success. Why did she feel so uneasy? All Might could give his power to others, much like Sensei. What was his quirk before he had it then? Was he quirkless? Damn hypocrite. Izuka shivered as her vision began clouding over, all of the colors blending into gray. And no. Izuka began shaking uncontrollably. Toga ran into the room. Izuka? Shit. Toga whipped out a knife and sliced 3 lines on Izuka's shoulder. The slow dribble of blood seeped back into Izuka's vision. I'm sorry. Haven't had one of those in a while. Izuka said. Hey. Babe, I get them too. It's okay. Toga sat down next to Izuka, who put her head on the blonde's shoulder. He can give it away. All Might? He can give his power away. Toga gave a sad smile. I'm sorry. No, I'm glad he didn't give it to me. I'm better without it. Okay babe. Rest up, Apparently you've got a meeting tomorrow. Izuka met up with my outside of the school. The two met power loader at the entrance. I still can't believe the resemblance. The hero shook his head. Come on, let's go. The hero led them through the empty halls of the students passed various classrooms, climbed stairs, until they reached a large black door. Okay, sort of intimidating. Izuka said. Let's go, power loader said, opening the door. As soon as Yumi entered the room, teachers leapt to their feet. Whoa. What's happening? Principal Nezu cleared his throat. Sit everyone. This girl is not your enemy. She sure looks like it. Ectoplasm said. Apologies Yumi, you bear a stunning resemblance to one of the villains from yesterday. Nezu displayed an image of Izuka from the USJ. This is Izuka Midoriya. You mean the girl who died in Mujutafu? Izuka asked. She saw All Might and Bakugo flinch. How did you know about that? Nezu raised an eyebrow. The news. A year ago, a quirkless girl took a dive off of a building, made me push myself harder, so I could develop more and maybe stop some of the quirkless deaths. Mind telling us how you got a scar just like hers? Aizawa grumbled. Izuka was getting tired. You know, I thought this was a meeting, not an interrogation. I'm not a villain, I definitely am not this Izuka Midoriya. And if you really want to know, it was during the stages of a discovery when an unstable isotope reacted in a bad way and started a chain reaction. The resulting explosion should have killed me. Then why didn't it? Cementos asked. I'm sure that's probably why Nezu called me here, right? Izuka smiled, taking out a laptop. You want to know about limit breaking, right? Toshinori raised an eyebrow. Limit breaking. Oh. Energizing, power boosting, leveling up? Ascension? Ascension. Half the room cried. Nezu cleared his throat once more. Yes, that's the one. Nezu? Ascension isn't actually possible, it's a myth, Midnight said. Many heroes have tried to reach that level of power and failed. Cementos grumbled. Izuka cleared her throat. That's because quirked individuals don't have the capacity to reach it. Capacity? You mean we don't have the physical potential? We're too weak? Snipe yelled. Shut up. Izuka glared. You've got it right. I'll allow the principal to take the floor. Nezu stood and walked to the board, where he pulled up a pie chart. The chart was divided into the sections for quirkless and quirked. As we know, 80% of the human population possesses some sort of visible quirk. Nezu said. We all know this. Ectoplasm grumbled. Yes, well. Nezu fake smiled, making the heroes shudder. You might want to learn a bit more. This presentation was made by young Yumi herself. It maps out everything you need to know. The heroes quieted down. Thank you. Now, as we know, 20% of the global population is functionally quirkless. In reality, only 1% of the global population is actually quirkless, devoid of any quirk factor at all. Most of the time, the other 19% have an invisible quirk, such as a mutation that turns their liver green, or a quirk that makes them grow their hair back twice as fast as a normal person, things that aren't noticeable. Izuka cleared her throat. May I take the floor for the next slide, Nezu? Her voice faltered a bit. Nezu nodded. I know what's next, I saw the presentation. You are more qualified than I am when it comes to this topic. Please. Continue on as you see fit. Izuka stood beside the screen, she could already see the doubt behind every hero's eyes. It is often ignored, suicide cases. The statistics of them. Do you know what percentage of suicides are committed by quirked individuals every year? Ectoplasm raised his hand. I'd say 70%. 13 raised his hand. I'd go with 80. Midnight shook her head. It's 75. Izuka's face darkened, she seemed to get a little sadder. Interesting. You, skeleton man. Do you know the answer? The teachers turned to Toshinori. and were shocked to find tears dripping from his face. It's 40%. 40% of suicides are quirked individuals. Izuka nodded, causing the teachers to gasp. And out of the other 60%, do you know how many of the deaths are those with absolutely no quirk factor? Toshinori shook his head. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't. 7%. Almost every single one of them. Only a handful of fully quirkless kids make it to adulthood. The teachers softened as they saw Yumi cry. And those fully quirkless individuals are the only ones who can pull off a limit break. So only the quirkless can do it? Snipe scoffed. That seems unfair. Izuka shook. Nezu raised his hand to calm her. Snipe. We have been born with powers, it is not right for us to judge who else can get power. Thank you, Principal. Izuka said. I probably would have tried to kill him if you hadn't stepped in. In the end, there are only a few people who can limit break, or ascend, every decade. They are hard to find, and it's even harder to find somebody who has actually done it. I've seen it twice. Nezu said. Once was yesterday, during the USJ attack. That power that the one villain wielded. A child took on the full force of the staff, and won. What's more, they did it with just a yell. We were all there. How would a person be able to achieve that level of strength? Rigorous training. Izuka said. Pain, torture, torment. You must be broken down piece by piece, before being reforged into a more powerful being. When you first break, you must lose something. For me, it was my face. Semendos grunted. So you've attained this power? Could we have a demonstration? Izuka looked at Nezu. May I? Be my guest. Ectoplasm, a clone please. Izuka stood up facing the clone. Throw a punch, or a kick at me. The clone responded, and was splattered all over the wall as a gust of wind ripped through the room. Izuka's fist remained outstretched, arm glowing a faint white. How do we know that it's not a quirk? Because I've been staring at her the whole time. The teachers looked at Aizawa, whose eyes were glowing red as he used erasure. That's not a quirk. Izuka brushed herself off. Exactly. Also, to conclude this presentation, a person can go through ascension multiple times. If you want to beat them, you take them out as soon as possible. How would we contain them? You wouldn't. Izuka walked out of the room, Hatsune by her side. Okay. Why does that kid terrify me? Vlad King shook. Power Loader shook his head. I hope that everybody else learns to respect her. I'm hoping she'll be able to bring home the sports festival for the support course this year. Along with Hatsune, of course. Have fun preparing. Anyway. That's all I have. Nezu said. Are there any questions? What can we do against a villain like that? Nezu sighed, before looking up with determination. The only thing we can do for now is prepare our students as best we can. As the teachers finished up the meeting, Izuka and Hatsune walked to the edge of the forest, before ducking into a solitary grove. Hatsune opened a bag that Izuka tossed to her, where she found a white lab coat that had been modified to be more of a cloak. Electric gauntlets, and a white mask. Oh! This will be fun. Izuka smiled as she pulled on a green hoodie. Izuku Milo was to everyone, an honest man. To his associates, he was a little less honest. The secretive ruler of the White Tiger Gang was cutthroat. He stayed out of sight unless there was important business to attend to. Izuku was going to a meeting today, between the Tigers and another gang, the Death Hornets. They were considering an alliance to rule over Mujutafu. Word was that the League of Villains had suffered a crushing defeat so Mujutafu would finally be able to fall into their control. Izuku walked into a large building, where a man with white hair guided him into a lushly decorated room. The two sat down at a table, where another man brought them a drink. So, you wish to form an alliance? With the League weakened, Mujutafu is ours. Besides, they owe us for getting our men captured. I was considering taking Mujutafu. I'm glad you reached out. A waitress walked out, her face covered by a white mask. Her pink hair tied back, into a ponytail. "May I get you anything? You aren't our waiter." "Oops. Found out." Izuka watched as the waitress grabbed his ally's face. Red lightning pulsed through his body, and he slumped to the ground, dead. Izuka turned to run, but found the door blocked by a figure in a green hoodie. Izuka grinned as she walked forward. "Come now. You know that nobody can deny the league." Izuka was dead before he had the chance to scream. Izuka licked down the side of her blade, before holding it out for Hatsume. "Want some?" Hatsume raised her mask, revealing her lips, before licking down the length of the blade. "Oh. That's good. I see why you and Toga Hatsume was cut off as Izuka kissed her, sharing the blood of Izuku. Welcome to the crazy club. Chapter 16, Just a bit of spying. The support workshop buzzed with activity. It was the first day back since the USJ. And that was all people were talking about. Did you hear about Class 1A? A villain attack. All Might? Powerloader clapped his hands. Alright everyone. The Sports Festival is coming up. This will be a big event, with a lot of publicity. Support companies will be there and send you support requests afterwards. Remember to give it your all. A cheer went through the workshop as Powerloader walked over to his two prized students. "You two, private studio. Let's go." The inventing duo followed Powerloader to their private studio space. When they were in the room, Powerloader shut the door. "You two are already set. I'm fighting to get you to intern at my support company. You'd go to the agency building in Hazo? Okay. What do you want us to do then?" Hatsume asked. Powerloader grinned. "I want you to win. I know that we're all shaken from the events at the USJ. The fight isn't over yet." Aizawa grumbled. "Oh no. More villains?" Kaminari wailed. "The Sports Festival is coming up. That's so normal." The class exclaimed. "Make sure to do your best. The whole world is watching," Aizawa said. The hero walked out of the door, leaving Class 1A to their own devices. "Oh yeah. I'm fired up. This'll be awesome." Sero roared. "I'll definitely attract some of the ladies." Minta's face morphed into a pervy grin. "Hell yeah. The whole world gets to see how great we are." Kaminari cheered. "Revelry in the dark." Tokoyami squawked. "Remember, we must all obey the rules of the sports festival." Ida swung his arm up and down. Bakugo got up and walked to the door, Kirishima by his side. "Where are you two going?" Bakugo grunted. "Lunch." The blonde opened the door to be greeted by a swarm of students. "So this is 1A? They don't look so tough. It's easy to figure it out. You just gave up while the heroes saved you. You probably wet your costumes." Bakugo looked down at his feet. "Huh? Is Blondie crying? Hey bitches. Fuck ho ff." Hatsume and Yumi leapt in front of Bakugo. "You know, we didn't go through what they went through. They fought some terrifying villains. And who are you?" Toga and Tetsu pulled a bunch of students out of the way. "They're the support students that made our suits." "Support students? Stand aside girls, this is for the hero." Course to a menacing aura burst forth from Izuka and Hatsume. "You know what, fucker, I'm glad I get to go all out at the festival." Izuka growled. "I've never wanted to disassemble a human, but now. Oh ho. Now." Hatsume grinned evilly. The students cleared the area. "Minoru." Toga called. The gray pet turned around and blushed. "Oh hey. You ready for lunch?" Toga booped Minta's nose. "You know it. Come on." Izuka watched as Toga gave a wink and dashed off with the gray pet. "Ugh. Disgusting. Can't believe she likes that perv." Izuka chuckled. "I know girls like that. She's just leading him on." Class 1A watched as Hatsume and Izuka walked away. "Who was that?" Tenya Ida asked. "Did you not pay attention in the support studio?" Those two are first-year support students. Mina said, they're the ones that nobody picked. Well then, we might have an advantage, they don't know artworks. Izuka smiled as she and Hatsum walked back to the private studio. The scarred girl took out a pen and clicked twice, rewinding an audio file picked up by a bug she had left on the door to Class 1A. They don't know artworks. Hatsum cackled as she heard the recording. Well? Should we spy on them? Make them antsy? Sounds delightful. Izuka smiled. The two worked for a bit on a project, before donning black suits that they pulled out from storage. They immediately told Power Loader they were going to spy on 1A. Ha! Straight to the truth, eh? Don't let Eraser catch you. The two girls walked out. Alright. I'm glad you taught me a bit about stealth. Hatsum muttered. They camped out by the door to Class 1A. Alright. We'll be training in Site Delta today. Get your costumes and get going. Izuka heard the approaching footsteps. Ceiling. The two girls leapt up and pressed into the ceiling, where they stayed, unnoticed by everyone. Commande Ground Delta. We can bug it before they get there. Izuka said. You do know that it's already bugged, right? Huh? Yeah. I bugged it a while ago. I love you. Izuka and Hatsum landed, before dashing off to the training ground. Aizawa looked down the hallway. Nobody was there. Strange. Izuka and Hatsum sat in a tree. They were on Ground Delta, a fake city. Currently, every student in Class 1A was giving a marvelous display of their powers. They don't even know. After a few hours of spying, Izuka and Hatsum returned to the lab. Power Loader was waiting for them with a grin on his face. So? You get what you need? Izuka nodded. All the info on Class 1A's quirks. Everyone from hardening to pop-off. Power Loader's eyes bugged out. You learned all of them in that amount of time? Hatsum and Izuka fist bumped. Easy. Okay. Since you did your scouting, I should probably tell you. Support students are allowed 3 support items in the sports festival. This gives you 3 weeks to invent and/or modify any previous inventions. Izuka grinned. I know exactly what to use. Power Loader sweat dropped as the 2 students cartwheeled over to a workbench and set to work. What are you two planning? Okay. Hatsum, we get 3 items each, and we're aiming for first. We'll need our most overpowered items yet. Lightning gauntlets. Izuka pondered for a moment. Yes. Just let me work on something first, okay? I have an idea. Hatsum nodded. Alright. We'll need the cube. Unless you make a new one, the cube's OFF limits. Power Loader said. Alright, let's make a new cube. Izuka said. We've got 3 items down. 3? Yeah. Gauntlets for each of us. Hatsum grinned. Alright. What else can we make? Easily portable close combat weapons. A pocket staff? Electric pocket staff. Seems boring. Has to be safe though. Our last item. How about this? 2 weeks later, 1 week. Power Loader grinned. You two ready? Hatsum and Izuka grinned. Of course. I can't believe you made another cube in such a short time. Hatsum and Izuka fist bumped. Easy. Will you two stop doing that? No. By the way, what are your other inventions? Izuka's silver backpack shook. Wait. Was it a backpack? The straps unhooked and became several legs, which the small robot fell down onto. Hatsum's robot beeped happily. Another robot? Power Loader raised an eyebrow. Sort of. You remember the gauntlets we made first day? Power Loader looked at the robots. Yeah, Izuka and Hatsum smiled as the robots leapt atop their hands. The machines whirred and beeped, before splitting and becoming gauntlets. Okay. That was cool. Power Loader said. What can they do? Izuka began listing off the added functions. Rocket boosters, Tesla coils, magnetic wave device. A what? Yeah. Watch this. Izuka snapped her gauntleted fingers, which immediately made all metal around her begin to float. See, magnetic wave device. Super powerful magnetic fields. Okay. Go on. Last thing is just a grappling hook. Oh. And a net launcher. Power loader nodded. Okay. Last thing? Under armor. Self-made. Not really any defensive capabilities, but it will keep us cool, monitor our vitals, etc. Hatsune was nearly bursting with excitement. It'll also allow me to collect data on Yumi's power bursts. Power loader nodded. Seems like you've got it figured out. Take the rest of the time to invent, rest, whatever. Make sure that you're as ready as can be for the festival. Right. The two walked out of the studio to get some lunch. There definitely gonna be trouble. A voice said. Power loader turned around to see Aizawa hanging from the ceiling in his sleeping bag. Oh hey hiya, could you please keep it down? Aizawa rubbed his temples. My class has been rowdy since the other classes challenged them. Power loader grunted. Sorry. I just wasn't expecting. You. Deal with it. Aizawa said curtly. What are those two up to? Power loader smiled innocently. Whatever could you mean? I saw them at our training. They're trying to learn my students' quirks. Aizawa grumbled. I want to know about their support items. Oh come now Aizawa, we both know that the items are irrelevant because of Yumi's power. Besides, they got the information on their own, I didn't help. Your students will have to spy on them to get that info. Aizawa gave an annoyed grumble, before dropping from the ceiling and inching out the door. Power loader watched him go with an awkward expression, which turned fierce as the door closed. Support will take the crown this year. Class, today we're going to be following two students. They've been spying on us since the sports festival. Aizawa grumbled. Get these suits on, and let's go. Power loader laughed alongside Nezu as they watched Class 1A through cameras given to them by Izuka and Hatsune. Flashback Izuka and Hatsune walked up to Nezu and Power loader. So, we know that 1A is eventually going to try to spy on us. Nezu raised an eyebrow. And why is that? Because we've been spying on them. Hatsune grinned. Thought you might want to see the show when it happens. On flashback Power loader focused on the camera showing Izuka and Mai. Class 1A was staying out of sight, but they were definitely not very stealthy. Izuka cackled in the private lab. Her and Hatsune knew they were being tailed, which is why they did nothing. They were just boring. All day. Holy shit, they're so bad. Hatsune giggled as they exited the private space. They both took some tools and began working. Izuka was dying at the fact that she could see every camera 1A had set up. She sat down next to the computer and made it look like she was coding. Prepare yourselves fuckers. Aizawa watched from his classroom. His class was crowded around the board, looking at every camera display. What do you think they're making? Mineta whispered. No clue. Hagakure said. Looks like they're coding something. The board suddenly went dark, except for a gray play button. Aizawa facepalmed. Aw fuck. They saw you. He hit the play button, and a video played. Hey 1A. Yeah, we know you're watching us. Have fun trying to learn about our plans. Oh yeah. Aizawa. There was one piece of information we could never get. How old are you? Maybe you know this song? A drum beat began to play, followed by more instruments. Fuck. No. I can't turn ITOFF. The class had never seen Aizawa look so awake. Nezu cackled maniacally as Aizawa was rickrolled. That's glorious. We must do this more often. Power loader was dying. They did. They rickrolled Aizawa. Never gonna give you up. Aizawa finally had enough and just unplugged his computer, as well as the projector. Alright, cameras won't work. Let's try a different approach. Somehow, The class failed to notice Izuka and Hatsum sitting in the back of the room. It was as if they were invisible. And so it went on for days. 1A would try to spy, and fail miserably. Aizawa was always humiliated in some way. Nezu recorded the entire thing and watched it over and over again for entertainment. Finally, it was one day to the sports festival. Izuka and Hatsum walked home with Toga. "Alright guys. I gotta get home." Hatsum grinned. "See you tomorrow, let's be ready to kick ass." Izuka and Toga waved, before being warped home. Toga and watched it over and over again for entertainment. Finally, it was one day to the sports festival. Izuka and Hatsum walked home with Toga. "Alright guys. I gotta get home." Hatsum grinned. "See you tomorrow, let's be ready to kick ass." Izuka and Toga waved, before being warped home. Toga: "We haven't seen each other much." The blonde nodded. "Yeah. We've been busy, haven't we?" Izuka nodded. "Dobby isn't here. Can we go to the couch?" Toga smiled. "Yeah. And afterwards, I want to hear about you fooling 1A over and over." Chapter 17. Class 1A was piled onto the bus that headed to the A stadium. "So how many people do you think will be there?" Okako wondered. "A lot. But the sports festival isn't just staged for a live audience. It's broadcasted all over the world." Bakugo said. "You're lucky, Bakugo. You'll get a lot of attention with your quirk." Karotsu Asui rebutted. "Or what about Todoroki? His power will definitely draw some people in." Kaminari said. "Hey Electrodamus. If you play your cards right, your quirk will be flashy too." Bakugo said. Tenya stood up. "We're here, everybody. Remember to act politely and do your best." The class filed off of the bus. They stood before a large crowd of people, each taking pictures, or asking for names. "It's like we're famous." Sato grinned. Jiro mumbled. The class walked into the stadium, where they were led to the 1A seats. They were positioned next to the teachers' seats, overlooking the whole stadium ground. "Huh. You guys have good seats." Bakugo looked down as Mineta screamed, finding Yumi and Hatsum both sitting in the front row. They hadn't been there before. "Where the fuck did you two come from?" Izuka looked at the blonde. "Well, you see. One day my mommy and daddy loved each other very much, you know what I mean, dipshits." Hatsum cackled as Yumi's expression turned villainous. "I just wanted to check in on you guys. Hope you're ready for some fun." The two support students disappeared. "Where the hell?" "Oh yeah," Izuka said from the doorway. "Don't try the stealth game in the festival. That's for us." Izuka and Hatsum disappeared into the stadium hallways with a terrifying cackle. "Okay everybody. We have a half hour. We need to figure out what those two will use." Tenya said. "We'll figure it out after the first event. First, I've got to tell you all something." Bago said. His classmates gathered around him. "Those two are beyond us for now. We can just place as high as possible. However, I do have one piece of information." "What?" "That girl. The one with the scar. She has the same sort of power as the one villain at the USJ." "She's a villain?" Mineta screamed. "No. Definitely not. I'd know if it was that villain." "Then how does she have that power?" Tenya questioned. "There is a specific percentage of the population that is truly quirkless. About 1% actually. Only about 2% of them survive life. They have the capacity to pull off what Yumi dubbed a limit break." "A limit break?" "Imagine working yourself so hard in mind, body, and spirit, that you become more than human. Your DNA changes. Somehow. The physically impossible then become possible. Imagine having no quirk, yet being able to pick up a truck with one hand, as if it were a feather. You've got to be kidding." Sero scoffed. "You saw that villain in the USJ. I witnessed Yumi display similar power. She took out an ectoplasm clone in a split second." "I doubt it." Mineta said. We should worry more about her gadgets. Guys, seriously. We should worry about both of those things. Mina said. Yumi is one half of the problem. Hatsum is on at least the same level as she is. And both of them can make anything out of scrap metal. Watch yourself if you go up against either of them. Hey guys. It's time to get suited up. First event is in 20. Aizawa grumbled from the hallway. I'll be running commentary with Mick. The teachers are down the hall if you need anything. Bakugo stood up and walked to the locker room, where he began pulling on a gym uniform. Flashback: Bakugo and Toshinori sat in the teacher's lounge. Bakugo had just gotten word about the approach of the sports festival. She's killed again. I know. Bakugo sniffed. A newspaper was on the table between them, displaying a headline about another victim of Patchwork Bunny. A man by the name Izuka Midoriya. I think that she might be beyond help at this point. Toshinori said darkly. She's killed so many, because of my mistake. Hey. I messed up too. If I hadn't, I killed her. Young Bakugo. You cannot take the blame for this. I was the one who you were just the last straw. One drop in an infinite ocean of grief for her. I'm at fault here. I cannot be a hero. Nonsense. Of course you can. Heroes don't make villains. Bakugo blinked tears from his eyes. Young Bakugo. Toshinori shouted. You're still young. If you wish to take responsibility, then Izuka is the villain that only you can defeat. Show her that you will meet her in battle confidently. Use this festival to announce to the world your immovable spirit. Show them that you are here. Bakugo nodded and grinned. Of course I will. He wiped the tears from his eyes. I'll be the best. And I will defeat her. End. Flashback: Bakugo pulled the gym shirt over his head and walked out to the field. He emerged to see thousands of spectators. Students crowded the field, the sun beating down upon them. Midnight stood on a center podium. She cracked her whip and everybody went silent. We have 2 speeches today. One from the top scorer in the hero course, and another from 2 students. Katsuki Bakugo, Yumi Shaudai, Hatsumi. Please step forward. Bakugo stepped up to the podium. The other 2 students followed him. First, Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo stepped up to the microphone. Hey. If I was still the same, I'd probably declare my victory already. But I've changed. I know that you're out there. I know that you're watching. Let it be known, your attack on us has only made us stronger. Every student, here. Today we will show everybody how powerful we are. Izuka was cheering in her mind. Almost crying with mirth. Holy shit, he's so stupid. This is a warning to all villains. We are the world's next heroes. We will stand strong. Today is a day of emergence. We are here. A cheer went up through the stadium. Toshinori grinned at the speech. You really have grown. Mitsuki muttered, as she watched the festival on the television. Midnight applauded. That was a very inspiring speech. Thank you. Without further ado, the 2 stars of the support course. Yumi Shaudai and Hatsumi. Hatsumi and Izuka stepped forward. Before we begin with our speech, we would like to applaud Katsuki Bakugo, and give our respect to Class 1A for their survival at the USJ. Izuka and Hatsumi bowed. Great. Now that that's done, I hope that everybody understands that we will be giving it our all. A quirkless girl and a girl with Zoom vision. We will claim the festival for the support course this year. Make no doubt. The crowd began laughing. A quirkless girl? The support course? Please. The heroes will win this one, kid. Go back to working at the grocery store where you belong. Izuka grinned. Before turning to Midnight and holding her hand out. May I? Midnight smiled and handed the girl her whip. Be my guest. Izuka jumped atop the podium and cracked the whip. A blood-curdling aura rolled out from her. Make no mistake. This ain't a joke. It's a challenge. The crowd went silent. Midnight took the whip back. That was sexy. Have a good festival. Izuka disappeared back into the crowd of students with Hatsum. Midnight took the stage once more. All right. The first event is the obstacle course. Everybody line up. The students lined up at the start as Aizawa explained the event. Competitors will race in a 4-kilometer obstacle course. Of course, this is a hero obstacle course, so the students will use their quirks or support items, depending on what class they have, to progress. Ready? Midnight raised her whip. Go. In a rush of wind, Izuka and Hatsum were gone. The cameras were already tracing the duo as the other students started. And their OFF. Present Mick cheered. Todoroki froze the tunnel behind him after his class got through. Our goal is to beat those two. We already have a good lead. He said stoically. And the support duo of Yumi and Hatsum has already taken the lead. What? In the stadium, the spectators watched as Izuka dashed with incredible speed, Hatsum on her back. Hatsum seemed to be fiddling with something. The crowd was a little outraged. There's no way they can win. She even lied about being quirkless. What are your thoughts, Eraser? Mick passed the mic. Yumi Shoudai and Hatsum Mai. They are always severely underestimated. Shoudai was admitted to the support course after passing the hero course entrance exam, as the hero course focuses on quirk growth, not just physical growth. Because she has no quirk, she worked hard to surpass anybody with one. A body that has been pushed to grow past the feasible limits. A mind that can rival that of our own principal Nezu. Such things make a deadly combination. Then you have her partner in crime. Hatsum Mai. Her quirk is zoom. Her eyes can zoom in on distant objects with ease, while IT's not a very powerful flashy quirk. IT definitely has IT's uses. Present Mick shouted. Are you done? Aizawa grunted. Sorry. You know how it is. Hatsum Mai has a quirk, however her greatest weapon is her mind. Her physical strength is also great. These two managed to discover a new element in their first week at a. They've been working together ever since they met. When you have two incredibly strong-willed, strong-minded, strong-bodied girls working together, you can get some earth-shaking results. Like now, for example. The screen displayed a grinning Hatsum, who snapped her fingers. A little black robot appeared on her shoulder and stuck out some sort of port. Hatsum held up a silver cube. What's that? Mick leaned forward. Hatsum connected the cube to the robot and pointed. A warp gate appeared and the duo was moved forward to the start of the first obstacle, a kilometer away. A teleporter. Mick shouted. And that's why those two are to be taken seriously. Aizawa muttered. Either way, they have arrived at the first obstacle, Robo Inferno. Several supermassive robots stood in the way of Izuka and Hatsum. The 0-pointers from the entrance exam. Izuka grinned as another small robot appeared on her shoulder. Hatsum hopped off of the scarred girl's back and disconnected the cube from her butt. What are they up to now? Mick wondered aloud. Aizawa leaned forward in interest. The robots jumped into the air, unfolding and refolding, until they became metal gauntlets. I've seen something like these before. Aizawa said, as Izuka raised a hand and grinned. Get ready for a light show. What do you? A bolt of silver lightning ripped out of Izuka's left hand. The energy crashed into the first 0-pointer. The bot's front was melted by the heat. Hatsum leapt forward, Izuka defended her as a multitude of tools sprang from her gauntlet. She began salvaging scrap from the destroyed 0-pointer. Powerloader grinned. So what do you think our chances are? You've got two students, you really want to snipe? Began. Hatsum held up a large ball of wires and metal. Yumi, give it a toss please. Izuka pecked Hatsum on the cheek and took the massive device. Her arm flashed white for a moment, and the device was sent up into the center of the obstacle. And boom! An explosion shook the entire stadium. 3 0-pointers were blasted to scrap. In the resulting dust cloud, Hatsum and Yumi bolted past. "Yes. I do." Power Loader grinned. "Again. That's why you don't mess with them." The duo continued running. Laughing at the commentary, Mick switched back to the other students. It seems that the other students are approaching the first obstacle. What? How are there any robots left? They used the explosion to fool everybody into thinking it would be an easy pass. They left at least 50 zero-pointers left to fight. Aizawa grumbled. Bakugo grinned as he blasted into the sky. "Who cares? We can take him." Todoroki ran past and froze two robots without hesitation. Mina skated past quickly on acid skates. Yaozu generated a grenade and threw it at a zero-pointer. The rest of 1A smashed right through. Class 1A is unfazed. What is with your students, Eraser? They've learned not to hesitate. They've seen the harsh reality of the world, and have grown to meet the challenge. Bakugo couldn't have been more right in his speech. They are showing the world that they are here. Izuka grinned as she and Hatsum approached the next obstacle. A massive chasm lay before them. It looks like the first place holders have reached the next obstacle. Will this be their downfall? Izuka fist bumped Hatsum, and they both jumped off of the edge. What are they doing? Power Loader's cackle could be heard throughout the stadium. Wait a minute. The camera zoomed in. Izuka and Hatsum were shown leaping between rocky spires with the use of grappling hooks. Ha ha ha. Take that hero course. Booyah. Power Loader shouted. Power Loader. Sit your child ass down. Aizawa grumbled. Izuka and Hatsum cleared the second obstacle. The other students reached it just in time to see Izuka and Hatsum dash off. Toga grinned as she darted past the first obstacle. You go, babe. Toga reached the second obstacle, to see 1A crossing. She just leapt across with ease. What's this? Class 1B's Shina Mayuko has taken third place. Izuka grinned as she heard that. Woo. For some reason. Yumi seems excited. Izuka and Hatsum came to the last obstacle. It seems like the two top participants have reached the final obstacle. The minefield. We obviously can't use the dangerous mines, those are for the third years. Aizawa grumbled. Haha. Good one, Eraser. These mines will just cause a small explosion. Not too damaging, just debilitating. Izuka just ran across the minefield, not caring if the explosions hit her. What insanity. Yumi Shodai is taking the minefield head-on. The crown had already forgotten about the girl's quirklessness. They were cheering her on with loud roars. Izuka grinned as she and Hatsum leapt off of the minefield. They made it. And here they are, coming up to the finish line. Izuka and Mai crossed the finish line. Toga following closely behind them. And there you have it. Yumi Shodai, Hatsum Mai, and Shina Mayuko have won the top 3 spots in the first event. Shigaraki grinned at the TV in the Vanguard building. Sensei had told him to watch the festival from there. Dobby and Twice were chuckling at the irony of 3 villains coming in first in a hero competition. Oh, this is delightful. We should provide them with some new toys. Shigaraki rasped. What do you mean by I want them to help work on the Namu? Maybe Sensei will allow them to. Dobby shrugged. Might as well ask. This is great though. Shigaraki grinned. I can't wait to see those heroes' faces when they find out. Chapter 18, I Choose Who Wins. Author's Notes, Sushi, back again for yet another chapter. So we're gonna get to the cavalry battle. I think I've picked out who's gonna be in the 1 vs 1 tournament. At this point, I have Izuka, Hatsum, Toga, Tetsuya, Tetsumineta, Monoma, Bakugo, Kirishima, Azumina, Ida, Okako, Todoroki, Tokoi, Ami, Shinso, Shiozaki. These are the 16 students participating in the one-on-one tournament. I'll try to make the fights as good as I can. Anyways. On to the cavalry battle. Izuka grinned triumphantly as she crossed the finish line. This is what heroes find challenging? Behind her, Hatsum and Toga bore a similar expression, and were having similar thoughts. I could take them out in minutes. They dare laugh at support, when they struggle with that. The rest of the students followed a few minutes later. Toga was happy to see that Tetsu had made the cut for the next event. There was also Mineta. Let's see how he likes me in a fight. Midnight cracked her whip. Students will be given a 5-minute break. Then we go to the next event. Izuka took a sip of water from a water bottle, before doing some warm-up push-ups. Hey, you'll burn yourself out if you do too many of those. A hero student said. Domonoma, one of the kids in Class 1B that Izuka hated. I mean seriously, you'll need all the strength you have to keep up with us. Izuka shot Monoma a glare as she launched into clap push-ups without breaking a sweat. You know clap, that's kind of funny clap coming from clap 20th place clap, no sneered. You just got lucky. Class 1A stopped us from moving along. That didn't seem to stop your classmate from taking third. Izuka pushed hard and launched up onto her feet. If I were you, I'd start reshaping myself. You'll have a hard time against everyone else here. Izuka walked away from the blonde asshole. Midnight began announcing the next event. Next up is the cavalry battle. Students will form teams of up to 4 people. Each team will be given a number of points based on the individual student's placement in the obstacle course. First place has the highest score, and will be entrusted with 10 million points. Izuka felt all eyes on her. Wouldn't have it any other way. The scarred girl grinned. You will be given 10 minutes to form teams. Starting now. Everybody immediately walked away from Izuka, save 3 students. Hatsum stayed by her side, as well as Toga. Tetsu grinned and walked over to the group to join. Wait, you aren't gonna come with me? Mineta asked Toga from another group. I think you'll be fine. We need to focus on the festival right now anyways. Toga smiled, making Mineta blush. Oh, okay. All right then. You have your teams. Everybody get ready. Midnight announced. Toga and Tetsu stood in the front, Hatsum in the back. 3. Izuka jumped up atop the 3 students and easily maintained her balance. 2. When this thing starts, run as fast as you can. Izuka whispered. What are you gonna do? Tetsu asked. I'm gonna do what they call one a pro gamer move. Izuka grinned. Toga gave a wicked smile. Start. Midnight cracked her whip and several things happened. First, a wall of ice erupted around Izuka's group, sealing them in a small space with several other groups. A ghost of wind blew through the air as Bakugo blasted off and began stealing headbands. Izuka waited to hear mixed commentary, and grinned. The cavalry battle starts. What are your thoughts, Eraser? While the 10 million point headband is an eye-catcher, it's better for students to hang back and wait for moments to strike. Take Todoroki's team, who's trying to burn out Yumi's team before catching them off guard. Incredible strategy. We see that Katsuki Bakugo is flying off of his team in order to steal points. Is this legal? The rules of the cavalry battle are simple. Gain points. You're disqualified if your team's leader touches the ground. Students also cannot leave the arena. Oh god, I shouldn't have said that. Say what? Izuka grinned as she heard what she needed. You guys break through the ice and confuse people. I'll work on points. What is SHE doing? I said you can't touch the ground. Other teams are free to be touched. Oh god. Izuka leapt off of her team's back. She began flipping between different teams, causing chaos as people tried to grab her. Get back here. Hey, you can't do that. Izuka blew a raspberry and flipped over the ice wall, where she landed upon the shoulders of one Ibara Shiozaki. Oh. Hello there. Vines ensnared Izuka's ankles. The scarred girl grinned and equipped her gauntlets. Let's go for a ride. The hero student went wide-eyed. and detangled Izuka just as the scarred girl took off. That was a close one. Tetsu, Hatsum, and Toga scattered. Each went to a different part of the eye's wall and smashed through. It seems I was right. Splitting the team up. Is that legal? As I said before, it is legal. But it requires a lot of trust, as well as finesse. Not many people can cartwheel through the air to other groups, like that. Eraserhead's words were proven when two groups attempted the same maneuver Izuka's group was pulling off, only to be demolished by other teams. As you can see. Incredible finesse. Izuka grinned as she bounced around on contestants' shoulders. Bakugo growled. Forget her. Take the others. Bakugo's group charged forward. Todoroki's group followed suit. They began stealing points from unaware teams. Monoma was focused on Izuka. He had built his team to take her on specifically. Mineta, trap her. Mineta threw his orbs at Izuka, sticking her onto another team. Monoma sped past with Bakugo's quirk, stealing every headband from Izuka's neck and holding them up in triumph. Izuka grinned as she saw Todoroki launch and take the 10 million points. Yes. It's all coming together. Izuka grabbed Mineta's orbs that stuck her to a student, and activated her gauntlet, popping the orbs and freeing her. She leapt back to her team. All right. We've got 20 minutes left. Nobody watching us, only the 10 million point fight. Izuka's body pulsed white for a moment, before she launched off yet again. Aizawa watched as point headbands disappeared from students' necks without them, even knowing. This is why quirkless can be dangerous. Todoroki created a pillar of ice that sent his team upwards. Izuka grinned as Monoma began trying to steal it. Give it back. Todoroki shot the stands in a motionless gaze. Izuka picked out the flickering form of Endeavor. Well then. I see someone's got daddy issues. Izuka muttered, stealing yet another headband. We've got 5,800 now. Izuka said, landing back on her team. Shall we get the 10 mil? Tetsu nodded. Hatsum cackled, Toga grinned. Let's get him. The spectators watched the cavalry battle with excitement. None more so than the rabbit hero Mirko. A quirkless winning a sports festival. Shouldn't be possible. The woman muttered. Yet here was this girl, who had plowed through the competition, the girl who had an endless amount of stamina and strength. She watched as the girl gave up the 10 million points. Finally. About time they stopped going easy on her. Mirko heard Endeavor grumble. Not that it matters. No one can surpass my shadow. Mirko's eyes narrowed as she looked at Endeavor's son. He was devoid of all emotion. Endeavor was just as big an asshole as she thought. The rabbit hero grinned as she saw Izuka flash white and disappear. This could be interesting. The hero laughed as the quirkless girl take most of the headbands. She's picking who gets to advance. Everybody thinks she has no control over the situation without a quirk. But she's deciding who moves on. Incredible. The girl landed back on her team's shoulders. She whispered something, and her team looked at Todoroki's team. Mirko grinned as the scarred competitor equipped her gauntlet items. The girl flexed her fingers and aimed at the ice pillar. Get your asses out of the way. A bolt of white lightning flew from the girl's hand and struck the pillar of ice, causing it to crumble. Todoroki refroze it, and added supports. Mirko noticed that his breath began hanging on the air, as if he were freezing. Does his quirk freeze him on the inside? Mirko saw the girl pulse white again. And then there's that. There's no doubt that she has no quirk. Maybe some type of physical level up? A trick of the light? Mirko shook her head as the ground rumbled a bit. Izuka's skin dully glowed, unnoticeable by anyone without enhanced vision such as hers. Go get him, girl. Izuka looked up at the cheer to see the rabbit hero grinning. You got it, Mirko. A shockwave blasted through the arena as Izuka leapt upwards. Todoroki went wide-eyed and summoned an ice wall. Azu created a large shield for her team. Izuka grinned as her eye flashed. This is for you, hero. Mirko went wide-eyed as Izuka spun around, before flashing white and sticking her leg out. But that's my adapted attack. Ascended style Luna Fall. Izuka swung her leg down. The kick reduced the ice wall to powder snow. The shield that Yaozu created shattered from the impact. Izuka's kick smashed the top group through their ice pillar, shattering it and allowing Bakugo to take the 10 million points. Mine now fuckers, ha. Mirko sat back in her seat dumbly. She used my attack? The rabbit hero stared down at the battlefield, where Izuka landed once more on her team's shoulders. The team broke into a run as Izuka brought out a metal sphere. With a click, the sphere elongated into a 6-foot metal staff. Stood tall on her team, making for an incredibly intimidating sight. All in all, SushuiTemitsu was full steel. His eyes were completely white, and his teeth sharp. Shinama's hair flared up behind her, almost as if it was fire. Hatsume's eyes were dilated, only crosshairs. Lightning sparked from the robot on her back, cloaking her in a dull glow. And Izuka rode atop the three, standing tall, holding a metal staff with her singular eye glowing menacingly. I wouldn't want to fight them. Mirko mumbled. The rabbit hero heard Endeavor scoff. Oh please. Like a quirkless could beat heroes like us. Mirko turned her attention back to the fight yet again. The last 30 seconds counted down. Izuka's team ran toward Bakugo's team. 20 seconds. Bakugo leapt up. 10, 9. The blonde went wide-eyed as Izuka leapt up to meet him. 8, 7. Bakugo blasted Izuka downwards. 6, 5. Izuka pushed the end of her staff into the ground and rebounded off of it, coming back to kick Bakugo in the stomach, sending him upwards. 4. Toga suddenly appeared above Katsuki, delivering a kick and sending him back down. Izuka caught the blonde in one hand. 3. Izuka took the 10 million points and leapt away. 2. Bakugo came to his senses and created an explosion, just as he was about to hit the ground. He launched back to his team's shoulders. 1. Monoma leapt towards the two teams. I can get it. Time. Monoma face planted with a disappointed yell. Bakugo looked at Izuka stunned, before grinning. That was pretty good. You guys know what you're doing. I'm kinda sorry that I can't face you now. Who said that? SushuiTemitsu pointed to the headbands around Bakugo's neck. They added up to 5,800 points. When nobody's watching, it's easy to change the game. Hope to see everybody I want in the final event. Izuka walked off of the field. The crowd went wild. Shedidit again. The quirkless girl didit. Why are you excited? We're seeing history in the making, dude. The first quirkless hero. Izuka gave an evil grin as she walked into the stadium hallways. Hey. Hero. Mirko leapt down the hallway. She was eager to find the scarred girl, find the girl she did. Right next to the angry force that was Endeavor. You there, quirkless? How can you hope to compete against beings like us? Izuka looked up at the number 2 hero. What do you mean? A quirkless is less than human. To a quirkless, I should be considered a god. So who are you who wishes to compete with the future gods? Mirko jaw dropped as Izuka grabbed the hero by the neck of his suit, pulling him down to her level. Listen here, asshole. You aren't a god. I myself have met God. You want to meet them too? Because I can arrange that. Endeavor remained calm as he looked into Izuka's eye. Burning rage filled the window to the girl's soul. Endeavor could feel his own rage being overpowered. HMMPH. The hero was released from the girl's grasp, and he walked away. What the fuck was that? Mirko pointed to Endeavor, revealing herself to Izuka. Kid, I don't know if you're crazy or what. Nobody stands up to that asshole. There's a first time for everything. Thanks for giving me some inspiration. I wanted to talk to you about that. How did you do it? Mirko asked. Do what? My special move. You need to have some inhuman strength to pull that shit off, Izuka smiled. When you spend most of your life being told you aren't human, you quickly realize that you can be more. I'm just an example of that. You mean, you don't consider yourself to be hey? Yumi. We're getting lunch, care to join? Hatsune, Tetsu, and Shinama appeared at the end of the hallway. Izuka looked at the group. You guys want Mirko to join? Yes. Yes. Yes, please. Toga squealed. Well? Care to join us? Izuka asked the rabbit hero. Sure? Mirko smiled. Why not? Chapter 19. The bracket is as follows. Izuka vs Mineta, Hatsune vs Shiozaki, Toga vs Tokoyami, Tetsu vs Kirishima, Ida vs Shinso, Monoma vs Mina, Bakugo vs Yaozu, Todoroki vs Okuko. Battles will most likely be in that order. Make up your brackets. Buckle down. Let's get to the tournament. Izuka sat around a table with Mirko, Hatsune, and Toga. Where's Grey Pass? The scarred girl asked. Heard he was tricking some girls into wearing cheerleader uniforms. Toga shrugged. Probably gonna get the shit for it soon. As if on cue, 3 angry girls stormed into the room, along with one Tenya Ida. They immediately locked onto Toga. You. Here we go. Mina Ashido, Okuko, Uraraka, and Momo Yaozu stormed to the table. Can you control your pervy boyfriend please? Toga gave the girls a dead stare. You should know better than to trust him. Don't blame his actions on me. Mina shook. Regardless. Can you keep him on a leash? Toga smiled. He's up against Yumi next. He'll learn quickly. The 3 girls looked at Izuka, who was chewing on a bite of food with an uninterested expression. I sincerely hope that you can fix him. Not that you have much of a chance. Ida sniffed. Hey, that's uncalled for. Mina said. What are you saying? Toga's face darkened a bit. We in the hero course have superior quirks. A quirkless like you cannot you two are high class. I can tell by how you talk. Izuka cut Yaozu off, but you must remember how I knocked your entire team down, and shattered that shield you made. I made that out of reinforced plastic. Of course you aren't lying, are you? I may have one eye, but I'm not blind. Izuka said numbly. Based on the straining in your arm. The feeling I got when kicking that. And this. Izuka pulled out a shard of the shield Yaozu had made. This shard says it all. That was steel. Yaozu's face turned red. Why I never what? You think you have the right to judge me? Izuka said once again, with a blank expression. You're just support. You don't know what we've been through. The USJ, Ida began. Hey high class. Izuka stood up and shot the group a glare, before taking a step towards them. You wouldn't be comparing trauma now, would you? Izuka took another step as a murderous aura flared from her. You see this scar? It's one of many. You two are high class, you have great quirks, but you've never even come close to tasting how much I've worked. You experienced the world for what it really was that day. Do you know how long I've been living in it? Ida and Yaozu shuddered. Izuka took another step. You two have no idea what it's like. You get one taste of battle, and you think you can judge anybody. Izuka stood nose to nose with Yaozu. You know nothing. The menacing aura faded away. Izuka walked back and sat down in her seat. Just watch. That perv is soon to be grape juice. Mirko coughed. The group finally seemed to notice her. Miss Mirko. I'm so sorry. We didn't see you there. Mirko held up a hand. Apologize to them. The group looked at Izuka, Hatsune, and Toga. Izuka could tell they were outraged as they apologized. Sorry. Uraraka, Yaozu, and Ida left. Mina stayed behind. I'm sorry about them. They aren't normally like that, I promise. Izuka just nodded. Mina smiled and walked out. So you deal with this how often? Izuka shrugged. every few days. People just don't believe that I can take care of myself. That's bullshit. Mirko said. With a kick like that, you could destroy anything. And you're still growing. You'd be the greatest. Ironic, isn't it? Izuka smiled, finishing her meal and standing up. The weakest could be the best. The scarred girl walked out of the room. Did I say something wrong? Mirko turned to Toga and Hatsum. The two shook their heads. In reality, Yumi doesn't want to be a hero anymore. She had that idea beaten out of her early on. So she was excited when Power Loader pulled her into support instead. People who told her she couldn't be a hero should be ashamed. They're dead wrong. Yeah, well. Toga sighed. She doesn't think so. I'd leave that topic alone. She can get sensitive about it. Mirko nodded. Honestly. I get it. I had people pick on me for being different, began getting into fights to prove myself. Hero work makes those battles come easily. Can't get it out of my head. I always feel like people see me as less, so I can get pretty angry whenever people say dumb stuff to me. So you're into hero work? For the fights? Yeah. It's such a rush, you know? And then people notice you. Hero work is better than illegal fights. You used to be a villain? Toga raised an eyebrow. You could say that. I fought in underground quirk rings. No license. Might have pickpocketed a few times. Honestly, I do miss the chases a little bit. Interesting. Toga smirked. It was nice talking with you. We really should get ready for the next event. The two students and the hero walked out of the dining area, returning to the stadium quickly. Give 'em hell. Mirko grinned. The two girls bowed and returned to the student seats. They sat down just in time for the first match. Up first we have the great boy himself, Minoru Mineta, versus the one WHO's held first for the entire festival. The quirkless wonder herself, Yumi Shodai. The crowd roared their approval as the two took their places. Toga grinned, as Izuka glared at Class 1A. What do these two have in store for us today, ladies and gentlemen? We're about to find out. Midnight raised her whip. Ready? Izuka planted her feet firmly on the ground. Mineta grabbed two orbs from his head. Fight! Mineta rushed forward, throwing orbs as he ran. He laid traps around Izuka, boxing her in, until he began aiming for her. Izuka was eventually covered in a mass of purple orbs. Mineta began launching off of the orbs on the ground, bouncing around and landing hits on Izuka. What an assault! It seems that Mineta has the upper hand. That's why you always root for the underdog eraser. HMPH. Mineta continued to rock around, landing punches and kicks. Eventually, Midnight cracked her whip. Enough. Yumi? Can you still fight? Mineta chuckled. When she's covered like that, there's no way. The mass of purple jiggled, before it began to shake violently. Orbs began popping off. Until finally, Izuka stood tall. Orbs all around her, her body crackled with electricity as her gauntlets glowed. It's funny. Your quirk is rubbery. It isn't really burned by electricity. But if you use enough, the balls are repelled. The gauntlets turned back into Izuka's robot. The little machine scuttled out of the arena. But I don't need that to beat you. Izuka plucked an orb off of the ground, before squeezing it in her hand. Mineta's eyes widened as the ball popped. You're about to be juiced, grape man. Hope you're ready. Mineta shuddered and reached to grab two more orbs, but found that Izuka had grabbed his wrists. Ready? Momo watched as Yumi was hit by a barrage of attacks from Mineta. Yeah. She's done for. Kaminari leaned back in his seat. Guess we won the war. What the hell do you mean by that? Bakugo raised an eyebrow. We're here to win the sports festival, not crush a quirkless student. Yeah. But it's really satisfying. Just you watch. That girl is gonna show you up. Bakugo chuckled. Did you forget how she demolished the cavalry teams? I'll let you in on a secret. Kaminari looked at the blonde. A secret? She didn't care about the 10 mil until the very end. Her other moves and shit, she had planned it out. She didn't just take points, she handed them out. What do you the people in the bracket? She chose them. Bakugo smirked as Class 1A looked to the fight. She. What? That's right. Now somebody like that. You think they'll have trouble against a midget? The class watched as Yumi broke out of the grape bunch. See? No problem. Yumi plucked an orb off of the ground and crushed it in her hand. Well. He's fucked. Guess you girls got your wish. The class went wide-eyed as Izuka began her attack. In a split second, she was in front of Mineta. Yumi grabbed Mineta's wrists and hurled him into the air, before leaping up and axe-kicking him into a cushion of orbs. The boy bounced off and towards the edge of the arena. Yumi appeared in the line of Mineta's trajectory. She roundhouse-kicked the boy back to the middle of the arena. God. That's gotta hurt. Mineta pushed himself to his feet. He used the chance to grab 2 orbs from his head, before throwing them at the ground and jumping onto them. The midget was sent high into the air, and came down onto Izuka with a kick. Huh. I almost felt that. Izuka grabbed the boy's ankle and squeezed, causing the boy's leg to pop. Mineta screeched and fell on the ground, holding his leg in pain. Minoru Mineta. Do you yield? The boy was too busy screaming. Izuka nodded to Midnight. Minoru Mineta is unable to continue. Yumi Shodai wins. Izuka walked up to the midget and grabbed his ankle. She applied a bit of pressure and popped it back into place. Wimp. Izuka left the field. The crowd cheered loudly. Yumi Shodai has done it again. Looks like I might owe a racer a bottle of wine after all. Izuka chuckled her way back to the hallways of the stadium. Endeavor stood before her once again. What do you want? You. That strength isn't natural. You must have a quirk. You. Your lack of intelligence isn't natural. You must have no brain. The flames at Endeavor's shoulders flickered with rage. You will be perfect for my son. You two will bring forth a generation of heroes greater than All Might. Izuka felt her eyes dilate. A word of advice. Izuka gave a fake smile. You do not control my life. I do. And so I'm going to leave you here. And you will leave me alone. If you don't agree, then I'll buy your life. I'll force you to birth this generation. And Izuka was suddenly in front of Endeavor, her fist in his stomach. There are a few things wrong with that. 1. What you're describing is illegal. 2. I happen to be infertile. 3. My life is mine to control. I am not your plaything. Endeavor snarled. I'll find someone with a quirk to give you children. I gave that part of me up willingly. You will be free. Izuka walked away, leaving Endeavor to his rage. So kiddo. What was that about? Mirko asked. She had come to meet up with Izuka. Endeavor is the worst trash. He wants me to sell myself to him so I can be a mating factory for his son. That's disgusting. Mirko grimaced. Yeah. Good thing I'm not really into guys. Also infertile check. Mirko's eyes bugged out. You can't have kids. It can happen. People born infertile aren't rare. I chose this myself. Izuka said, hand falling to her lower torso. Probably the best choice I've ever made. Mirko patted the girl on the head. You do you. In the end, it's your body. Yup. The two returned to the seats just in time for the next battle. The other half of the most genius support duo. IT's Hatsumai. Versus. The Maiden of Vines. Ibara Shiozaki. Chapter 20. Izuka grinned down at the fighting stage. Ibara Shiozaki approached the ring, her vines flowing out behind her. Hatsum was already on the stage, tinkering around with her robot. Eraser? Is adjusting items legal? Of course it is, idiot. Running last-minute diagnostics to make sure everything is in working order is permitted. Any additions between rounds are legal. Tune-ups are fine. Izuka smiled. Oh, you're in for a treat, Vine Girl. Ready? Midnight raised her whip. Fight! Shiozaki immediately ran to the center of the arena, where she bent her legs and deployed her vines. The arena floor began getting churned up. Cracks appeared in the concrete. Interesting display of power. Your thoughts, Eraser? Ibara Shiozaki. Although she isn't in my class, I know enough about her from her exam to give a detailed analysis. Although there might be somebody better than me for the job. Who could it be? Should I please come to the announcer's box? A couple of heads turned to the scarred girl, who gave a wink, before dashing into the stadium hallways. Seconds later, she appeared in the announcer's box. How the hell did you get here so fast? Aizawa groaned. He's already here? Wha? Present Mick jumped. Calm yourself, idiot. Come offer your thoughts, Yumi. Aizawa grumbled. How would a student like me be able to? We both know you spied on every class for the past few weeks. Go on, tell us. Izuka rolled her eyes. Fine. Present Mick handed Izuka the mic. Huh. Never thought the mic would give me the mic. The crowd chuckled at the girl as Ibara and Hatsum continued to fight. Ibara ripped a chunk out of the arena floor and hurled it at Hatsum, who dodged easily. Ibara's quirk is called vines. Her hair is obviously made up of vines. Looks pretty darn cool. Hatsum flipped over another barrage of attacks. Could you focus, please? Aizawa grunted over the speakers. Right. Sorry. Shiozaki's quirk is more than that. She can grow and control her vines at will. It's clear that Shiozaki's first goal was to break up the arena to limit Hatsum's attacks. Doing this also provided her with more means to attack. Hatsum danced out of the way of yet another strike. Ibara was getting frustrated. Why don't you fight back? What is Hatsum doing in this situation? Aizawa questioned. In this instance, Hatsum is using the most valid tactic. One that countless creatures have used for generations. Running away. Hatsum flipped over another attack. Shiozaki screamed in rage. The girl manipulated her vines into a carpet and sped towards Hatsum, who smirked in triumph. Try this, on for size. Hatsum leapt into the air as her robot became gauntlets. It seems she sprung her trap. Izuka grinned in the booth. What does this plan entail? Aizawa grumbled. Come now, Eraser. Don't you remember where digging for information got you? Never gonna give you up. Shit. No. Mick, stop her. Hatsum directed her gauntlets at Shiozaki's head. You ready? Shiozaki's eyes went wide. No. Not that. Hatsum grinned. Boom. The thrusters in the gauntlets activated, burning half of Shiozaki's vines away faster than she could regrow them. Hatsum landed as Shiozaki was focused on regrowing her vines. The inventor grabbed the vine girl's wrists and whirled her towards the edge of the arena. Shiozaki caught herself with her quirk and launched back into battle. Ooh. Nice one. Hatsum dodged another attack. Stand still. Ibara managed to trip Hatsum, before entwining her in vines. That's it. Surrender now. Shiozaki smiled. Hatsum giggled. You think it's that easy? What is she planning, Yumi? We've known each other for so long now. I've never seen a racerhead so awake. This is truly an amazing battle. 20 minutes earlier, Mirko watched the two contestants walk out onto the field. Hatsum was tinkering with her last-minute adjustments. Mirko smirked. This is gonna be good. Midnight cracked her whip, and Shiozaki claimed the center of the stage. Alright. Good strategy. Claim the center. Mirko watched as Hatsum stood up with a robot in her arms. The girl leapt out of the way of a large vine that burst through the stadium floor. Agile opponents are often the hardest to fight. People think it's enemies with amazing defensive capabilities. But defense can be broken. What good is an attack that never hits? Hatsum dodged another vine with a cartwheel. The junior inventor tossed the robot high into the air and dove into a roll as a vine swiped through the space where her head had been. Those three girls. They're experienced. Like, big time. Even All Might would struggle taking them on. Hatsum grabbed an incoming vine and used it to launch into the air, where she caught her robot. Seriously? Where do you learn to move like that? And their analyzation skills are through the roof. A group seated not too far from the rabbit hero was having similar thoughts. The two first battles. This girl, and the quirkless one. They've dominated. The pro hero Mandalay muttered. They're good. Tiger said. Too good. Those kittens are incredible. I mean. Look at the quirkless girl in the box. Pixie Bob gasped. The pro hero Ragdoll looked towards the announcer's box. Her eyes fell upon the scarred face of Yumi Shodai. I'm not seeing. Look with your goggles. Pixie Bob said. The three heroes donned the goggles that they wore during work. The lenses allowed them to determine the stats, energy output, and potential of those they fought with, or against. Okay, so, danger. High energy reading. Through the lenses, the girl seemed to glow dully. Her skin was outlined in a shimmering white film. What the heck? I thought she said she's quirkless. There's no way. She's got to have a tiger was cut off as the girl turned her head and glared. A wave of energy seemed to wash out from her. It was blood red. Unbridled rage. Can she hear us? Seems like it. We're gonna have to have a talk with Miss Yumi Shodai. Ragdoll muttered. Back with Mirko. The rabbit hero had picked up snippets of the conversation. She was focused on the battle at the moment, but she'd follow them. With four heroes? Yumi's gonna have some trouble with their attitude right now. The hero cheered as Hatsum donned her gauntlets and burned Shiozaki's vines. Atta girl. Show 'em what you're made of. The battle continued and Hatsum was restrained. You've got this. Show her up. Do it. Hatsum freed one arm and grabbed an extended vine. These are still a part of you. Now plants don't really feel electricity. But if you use enough, in a concentrated area. Lightning crackled through the vine, before striking Shiozaki. The girl cried out and fell. Her vines went limp and Hatsum was freed. The inventor launched herself towards the hero student, who recovered in time to build a vine wall. Hatsum reached out and grabbed the vines. Please just tell us what Aizawa tried to speak /oau, give you up. Get her out. Hatsum tore the vines out of the ground and gave a strong tug, pulling Shiozaki off balance. Spinning around, Hatsum pulled Shiozaki into the air, wielding her like a ball and chain. Ow 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 ow. Stop it. If you insist. Hatsum let go, sending Shiozaki flying out of the ring. Midnight cracked her whip. Ibara Shiozaki is out of bounds. The victory goes to Hatsum Mai. The crowd roared their approval. Hatsum stepped out of the battle area with a grin. You did great. Izuka shouted in the hallway. Hatsum giggled. And you did too. Your commentary was hysterical. Hatsum Mai, and Yumi Shodai we presume? The two girls came face to face with the wild pussycats. Tiger stood behind Mandalay, Pixie Bob, and Ragdoll with a tough expression. Mandalay's lips were pursed. Ragdoll's eyes narrowed. Pixie Bob was still deciding on her expression. You two. Who are you? You heard our names, and you just addressed us. Why ask? Izuka raised an eyebrow. You two are way too experienced for support students. You shouldn't be able to beat hero course students. Especially without a quirk. Why would you lie about that anyway? About what? Izuka felt rage boil inside her. You have a quirk. That light coming off of you. That isn't natural. Is it a minor enhancement of some sort? I assure you that I am quirkless. Eraserhead has confirmed it. Then who are you? How are you this strong? Hey. Mirko stalked down the hallway. Leave them alone. I'm sure you see it too. Mandalay exclaimed. There's no way that she's quirkless. There is. Mirko said. Your way of thinking is just flawed. These two have fought hard to get here. There's no way that they are. Are you listening to yourselves? Mirko shouted. The hero group was silent. We're heroes. Why are you questioning somebody else's strength? But I thought better of the pussycats. I see now that I was wrong. Mirko grunted. Just go. Leave these guys alone. The four heroes walked away. Thanks, Ms. Mirko. Hatsum smiled. You two aren't off the hook. I have some questions now that I've thought a bit. After the sports festival, I want to meet with you. I want a bit of an explanation myself. There's nothing to there isn't, you know it. I'll go with you. We're going to talk. Mirko said. I think I know who you are now. But I won't stop you. Everybody has their reasons for what they do. And for you to be on this level, you may be my ticket into a new world of excitement. Now I'm heading back to my seat. The next fight will start soon. The rabbit hero walked back to her seat, disappearing from Izuka's view. Well, that could be good or bad. Are we gonna tell her? Depends. We'll see what happens. Next up we have. Here. Come on. Izuka picked Hatsum up and dashed off. Appearing at the announcer's box in seconds. Shina Mayuko. Versus. Class 1A's resident edgelord. Fumio Tokoyami. The crowd cheered once again as the two contestants took their places. Hello again, Yumi. Please refrain from the. You know. Aizawa grumbled. What? When do you get back? Present Mick yelped. Doesn't matter. Watch the battle. Aizawa sighed. Midnight cracked her whip. Ready? Fight. Tokoyami rushed forward with Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow struck first with a claw swipe. Tokoyami attacked the spot that Toga dodged into. His strike hit open air. You have a good attack style. Needs work though. Tokoyami whirled around, swinging Dark Shadow with him. The bird-like mass curled up into a ball, mimicking a mace. Toga cartwheeled back, dodging with ease. You're just too slow. Tokoyami rushed into a frenzy of attacks, not giving any time to do anything but block. For Toga, it was easy to just sidestep all of the attacks. Dark Fist. Dark Shadow curled around Tokoyami's arm. The boy swung forward with a punch. Dark Shadow launched off of his arm, extending the range at which he could strike. Toga took the chance and grabbed Dark Shadow. Coochie coo. Toga tickled, under Dark Shadow's arm, making it freak out. The girl wrapped a hand around the beast and pulled. Tokoyami launched into the pull, readying an attack. He was taken out by a quick blow to the stomach. Too easy. Toga walked off the stage. The crowd roared behind her. Mind telling us what just went on? Tokoyami's quirk is Dark Shadow. His power grows stronger in dark places. Currently, it's noon. He's at his weakest, yet still a formidable opponent. Either way, Shinama would have won. She knew his attacks too well. Izuka dashed out of the room with Hatsum. Be back with her soon. The two appeared before Toga, who was being confronted by Endeavor. What is it with the fucking heroes today? You know, the other girl turned down my offer. I'll find a way to make it happen. You're the next best choice. Fuck off, Candle Boy. You pissed off Yumi. In my eyes, you're less than nothing. Endeavor snarled and grabbed Toga's arm. You've got a lot to learn, girl. Leave her alone. Izuka strode towards the flame hero. You remember me? I wouldn't expect it from a man so obsessed with power that it's almost a fetish. Endeavor's flames raged. Silence. You do not get to. I've had enough of your shit. If I see you one more time. Izuka donned her gauntlets, which crackled with electricity. I won't even need to use these to kill you. Izuka pushed Endeavor away. Toga followed her back to the announcer's box. Hey. You three are good for a while. We're taking a break for some cleanup and advertisements. Aizawa muttered as they walked in. Welp, Guess we're going out yet again. Izuka cheered, pulling her friends out of the room. I assume you want to go see your boy toy? Izuka grinned at Toga. Toga nibbled Izuka's earlobe. No. You messed him up good. I want you. Izuka gave an innocent look. In the middle of the sports festival? My. So naughty. Toga stole a kiss from Izuka. Yeah. But it's been a while. The three once again moved into the stadium hallways, where they heard President Mick make his announcement. We'll be taking a short break to allow the field to be cleared. 20 minutes to prepare for the next fights. Starting now. While we wait, a word from our sponsors. Izuka led her friends to a small broom closet, which looked like it hadn't been used in a long time. Here's as good a place as any. Izuka grinned. What are we waiting for? Toga asked. Who's making the first move here? Izuka was about to speak, when Hatsune caught both of them off guard. Me. Hatsune pushed both of them into the closet and shut the door. Her robot expanded into a soundproof wall behind her. We've got 20 minutes at least. At most an hour. Toga breathed as Hatsune crept atop her. Yeah. That's more than enough time. I only need 10 for both of you. Izuka and her two friends returned to the announcer's box, a little ruffled. Aizawa gave them a weird look. What happened to you three? Got stuck in a flood of people. Aizawa shrugged. Whatever. You got back just in time. Next match is about to start. It's time for the fourth battle. The Steel Warrior. Tetsu versus the Rocky Warrior. Ijiro, Kirishima. Izuka chuckled. This should be good. A match made in heaven. Her eyes locked onto Tetsu as he strode onto the stage. I want to see you in action. Then we'll see about recruitment. Chapter 21, Rabbit and Steel. Alright. The Valentine's story is up. For those of you who haven't read it, you aren't really missing anything major. Well, one thing. But that isn't really too major. So, let's continue. We were on Tetsu and Kirishima. Midnight looked at both fighters. Really, Nezu? This fight is gonna destroy one of these kids. Both think they don't have flashy quirks, both feel insecure about themselves. And you're gonna do this? The hero cracked her whip. Begin. Kirishima and Tetsu both stood their ground. Neither of them wanted to make the first move. Tetsu saw the sun shining down on them and activated his quirk, only in his right arm. The sunlight reflected off of the steel boy, shining in Kirishima's face. The redhead threw his arms up, and Tetsu rushed in. The first strike bounced off of Kirishima's skin. Damn. Another hardening user? Tetsu swore. Kirishima swung around and punched outward, landing a blow to the side of Tetsu's head. Huh. Guess this is gonna be a fight of endurance then. Kirishima grinned. Yeah, well. Tetsu grabbed Kirishima's wrist and swung him around. The redhead landed and planted his feet, turning Tetsu's attack against him. Come on. I know you can do better. Kirishima smiled. Tetsu snarled. He launched a punch at Kirishima's stomach. Once again, it bounced off. Really? That's it. Kirishima chuckled. Shut up. Tetsu punched Kirishima in the face, managing to push him back a few inches. Huh. I almost felt that. Izuka watched the battle, if you could call it that, with narrowed eyes. Eraser. Mind explaining their power differences? Aizawa grinned. Of course. You see, after the USJ, Kirishima wanted to make sure he would never be hurt again. Not by anyone. Of course, I don't think he's at that level yet. But he's worked hard on his endurance. Izuka nodded. He's won this fight then. Are you sure? Tetsu's quirk works off of the iron in his blood. From what I've seen of Kirishima, he only has an endurance limit. Tetsu doesn't stand a chance. Aizawa turned his attention back to the fight. Well then. Looks like Tetsu might have the capacity for becoming a hero. Man. That's harsh. Mirko grimaced at the one-sided display of power. He lands every hit, yet they do nothing. Tetsu landed another hit, before going wide-eyed. In a flash, he was steel. He was also standing 4 feet away. There was a small dent in his left arm. Holy shit. A hit like that? A hardening boosted punch, one that could rival Death Arms. Tetsu gave a groan of pain, but ran forward yet again. None of his hits even scratched Kirishima. This isn't right. Just call the match already. Mirko whispered under her breath. Well. My arm's dented. Definitely gonna be a fracture. Tetsu gritted his teeth and rushed in again. After 3 punches, he felt his hold slipping. No. It can't stop yet. The boy struck yet again, and a crack sounded through the arena. Tetsu's quirk had reached its limit. He had broke his hand on Kirishima's chest. Done already? Tetsu didn't answer. He just thumped his arm against Kirishima's chest. Useless, seriously. Sorry, man. I'm sure you just need more training. Kirishima smiled. Useless, sorry. But I have to keep going. I need to prove my worth. What does that mean? You prove your worth? What does that make me? Here. I'll make it quick. Kirishima punched Tetsu in the face, sending him reeling back. Tetsu began blacking out. One word formed on his lips. Useless. Midnight cracked her whip. Tetsu is unable to continue. Ijiro Kirishima wins. The crowd roared their approval. The stage was cleared. Izuka looked at the hero seats, where Vlad King watched Tetsu get carried away disappointingly. Aizawa and Present Mick bore similar expressions. Toga tugged at Izuka's sleeve. Come on. I want to talk to him. Izuka nodded, and walked with Hatsum and Toga. They left the box. 5 minutes was all that they needed. Mirko cringed at the result of the fight. I saw that coming. Damn. Eraser didn't have to be so harsh when commentating, though. The rabbit hero looked up at the announcer's box. Her eyes met those of Izuka. Okay. I guess I'm getting up yet again. The rabbit hero stood up and walked into the stadium hallways, where she followed the signs to the infirmary. Izuka, Toga, and Hatsum were already there. They sat next to where Tetsu was placed. To say that Tetsu was in rough shape would be an understatement. His left arm was completely crushed. His hand had been demolished from beating against Kirishima. The boy's silver hair lay over his scratched-up face. Mirko walked up to the group. Another one? If you think you know, then you and I are gonna talk. Not after the festival. Now. Let's go. Izuka stood up and pulled the rabbit hero with her. The door closed behind them. So Tetsu? Hatsum asked. He has potential. You can see it. I know that the others see it too. He just needs more experience. Toga sighed. You know his quirk. It can be powerful. Like, really powerful. He just needs somebody to believe in him. The boy coughed. You. Who's there? You can't tell? Toga smiled warmly. Hair. In face. Cough not good with. Voices. The silver-haired boy grunted. Don't wanna cough. Move. Toga brushed the hair out of Tetsu's face and smiled. Hey. How do you feel? Toga asked. Honestly. Like I just got hit by a train. Tetsu strained a smile. Yeah, well. Nobody thought 1A would be that good. Hatsum sighed. You. Here? Where's Yumi? She went to talk to someone. She'll be back soon. Tetsu coughed and did his best to nod. Do you think I'm weak? Toga placed her hand on Tetsu's shoulder. No. You're strong. Just not strong enough. Then. He's right. Not a hero. What does he know? You can be better. You have the potential to be so much more. Toga smiled. You think so? I know so. Izuka and Mirko stood in the unused broom closet. We have 5 minutes. Izuka said. Don't worry. My bot soundproofed the room. There are also no cameras. What do you know? Mirko smiled. Well, first, your name isn't Yumi Shodai. You don't want to be a hero. I gotta applaud you. How long have you been hiding right under their noses, Izuka Midoriya? Izuka giggled. I mean, it's pretty easy. You just need a cloning quirk. Now my turn. What are you going to do now that you know? Mirko curled her hair around her finger. Well, you're strong. I'd love to fight whatever made you that way. You like fighting. Izuka smiled. You could fight me. We both know you'd kill me in an instant. No. I want excitement. Battles are fun. Running from the police. I haven't experienced that rush in a while. So do you want to join us then? Mirko grinned. Only if I get to spar with you once a month. Izuka smiled and placed her hand on Mirko's shoulder. Baby, we don't spar once a month. We spar once a day. Izuka kissed the rabbit hero. Welcome to the league. Tetsu gasped as Ru healed him. God. That's phew. The boy shuddered, before flexing his hand. Thanks. Just promise me that you won't do something like that again. Tetsu bit his lip, but nodded. Don't worry. I won't. Recovery Girl gave Ru a pat on the back, before handing Tetsu some gummy bears. All right. You should be good now. You can get back to watching the festival now. The next match should be coming up pretty soon. Come on. Let's go. Toga and Himiko smiled, pulling the boy out of the infirmary. The two girls ushered Tetsu to the announcer's box. In the hallway, they met up with Izuka and Mirko. Hey. You ready? Toga smiled. Sorry. I don't want to go in there right now. Tetsu muttered. Eraserhead made his thoughts about me pretty clear. Izuka smiled. That's fine. Give me a minute. Izuka walked into the room. There was a bit of screaming as a bit of music began playing. Izuka was then tossed out of the room. And there we go. Sorry, just had to make my thoughts known. Izuka smiled. You played the song, again didn't you? You know it. Tetsu smiled sadly at how happy they were. Of course they're happy. They won. He was pulled from his thoughts when Izuka placed a hand on his shoulder. Hey. It's okay. You just have a lot to learn. Don't let Eraser get to you. Tetsu smiled and nodded. Yeah. Can I speak with you, Yumi? Izuka looked at her friends, and Mirko. We'll be with you in a bit. Is that okay? Mirko nodded. That's fine. We'll be at the support seats. Izuka watched them walk away. Mirko rounded a corner and winked, before disappearing. Come on. I've got a better place for this. Izuka once again went back to the broom closet, which was becoming more and more used. Tetsu walked in and closed the door. Izuka's robot made a soundproof barrier yet again. So? How do you do it? How do you deal with others telling you that you're less? Look. Tetsu. I developed my own way of thinking about that. I decided to prove them all wrong, no matter what it took. Huh. Well. Tetsu. What do you think about heroes? Tetsu bit his lip. I know. I shouldn't say things like this. But after today. After that fight. They're all jokes. How can I compare? Why would they say I can't become a hero after one fight? Izuka nodded. You think it's unfair? Of course it is. I trained with Vlad-sensei. Yet he looked upset with me. Why? Why does he get to do that? Izuka nodded again. He shouldn't. They have no right to judge you. So. With that in mind, what do you think about yourself? I think. Tetsu said. I think Eraserhead was right, I can't be a hero. I don't think I want to anymore. What do you want to do then? Izuka raised an eyebrow. Do you want to prove them wrong? I want to make sure that they never see me as weak. Tetsu gritted his teeth. I don't care if my quirk has so many drawbacks. I'll work past them. You know that your quirk isn't being used to its fullest extent yet, right? What do your quirk? You use the iron in your body to transform yourself. You probably eat a lot of meals high in iron then, right? Yeah. Lots of spinach. Have you ever thought about what else your quirk could get stronger from? Tetsu shook his head. No. My quirk is just a simple endurance quirk. That's where you're wrong. Izuka smiled. Your quirk. It might seem like a simple hardening quirk, but it's more complicated than you think. Your teeth. Pointed, like any hardening quirk user, but they're slightly different. Izuka pulled out her phone and pulled up a diagram of Tetsu's skull. Your teeth. They actually have slight ridges, and something here. The girl zoomed in, showing a tiny organ in Tetsu's mouth, nestled in with his salivary glands. Now, these are pretty hard to notice. They blend in pretty well. And I'm sure nobody would really be able to figure them out. But I'm different. These organs here. They're the most amazing things I've ever seen. What do? They pull iron directly from something you ingest and put it into your bloodstream. Well, actually, only one thing. As far as I can tell. These organs. They pull iron from blood itself. Tetsu, your quirk isn't just simple hardening. It's the perfect combination of a blood quirk and an intangibility quirk. Tetsu looked at the diagram. But then. Here. Bite me. Izuka held out a hand. What? Do it. I'll be fine. Tetsu took Izuka's hand, and nipped her finger. A bit of blood dribbled into his mouth. Izuka noted that his pupils shrank just the tiniest bit. Well? How is it? Tetsu wiped his mouth. That. How? How do you feel? More. Powerful. That was just a bit, right? My body is buzzing. So a slight boost in strength. Izuka typed down notes in her phone. Unfortunately, I don't think the heroes will be as happy with this development issue. Yeah. I can see why. Tetsu drooped. I want to be able to train my quirk now though. And Eraserhead said I lacked the capacity. Maybe this was the problem. Izuka nodded. Tetsu. Have you ever thought beyond being a hero? The boy stopped. As I said before. I don't think I want to be a hero anymore. At least not one like them. I want to change the world. And what would you do to change the world? Izuka pondered. Anything. I'd do anything. Even become a villain? Izuka smirked. Tetsu clenched his fist. If that's what it takes. I will do it. Even though I don't really see an option, considering my new developments. Izuka smiled and slowly took off her wig. She had gotten pretty skilled in using the Yumi disguise. And now, it only took but a minute to pull it on or off and fix it to her perfectly. How about you join me, Tetsu? Tetsu's eyes widened. You're Izuka Midoriya. The one who attacked 1AA. Skip the entire realization part. That's boring. Izuka yawned. You held off the entirety of the staff. Can you teach me to be that strong? Izuka smiled. Is that a yes? Tetsu nodded. Please. I want to show them all. Izuka reattached her wig. She grabbed Tetsu by the shoulders and pulled him into a kiss. Welcome to the league. Next up. The super speedster. Tenya Ida. Versus the mysterious Hitoshi Shinso. Where are those two? Mirko wondered aloud. Just give them time. They'll be back with us soon. Toga smiled. Just enjoy the fight. Yeah. You're right. It's only been like a minute anyway. Hatsum, right? Mind telling us about those two? You spied on them, right? Hatsum nodded. Sure thing. I'll start with the fact that Shinso's gonna win. Oh? Why do you say that? Toga asked with a grin. Shinso's quirk allows him to take control of his opponent's mind if they speak to him. So, if he aggravates that one enough, the match started as Midnight cracked her whip. Shinso said something to Ida, getting the boy to charge in with a yell. The speedster stopped right in front of Shinso. His face bore a blank expression. And ta-da! We have a winner. The crowd watched in silence as Tenya Ida walked out of the ring. Midnight called the match. Hitoshi Shinso wins. The crowd cheered. What a powerful quirk. And excellent display of something that might be found villainous. Think of what he could do with such a power. Toga smirked. Looks like you were right. Izuka ran up to the group, Tetsuya following close behind. What took you so long? You missed the match. Izuka clutched her head and groaned. Really? I didn't expect it to be that fast. Tetsuya grinned. Well, at least we only missed one. Who won, by the way? Toga pointed to the stadium, where Shinso walked out. Hitoshi Shinso. Oh. Izuka straightened up. That makes sense. He'd obviously win his first match. Yeah. Hatsumi explained already. Mirko said. So who's up next? As if on cue, President Mick announced the next fight. Up next, we have Monoma, the king of copying. Versus Mina Ashido, the queen of acid. Izuka turned her attention to the stage with a smirk. I really hope Mina kicks that guy's ass. Chapter 22, His Power Author's Notes. Okay. So far, seems like everybody wants blackish red hair for Tetsuya. This will only happen when he crosses a certain threshold in his blood consumption. Also, he'll most likely fade back to silver hair after using up the iron in his system. So the hair color will occur in battle. Now, we have Mirko, Hatsumi, and Tetsuya. I've received questions about Mina. I don't think I will have her join the Vanguard. There are a few reasons. I have plans for her, but those don't include the Vanguard. Besides, I have the entire villain group mapped out. Shigaraki, Izuka, Kurogiri, Toga, Hatsumi, Tetsuya, Mirko, Dabi, Twice, Stain, Spinner, Compress, Magn, Eri, and an Uck. You remember the demon boy from Himiko's parents? Well, I'm having him join the Vanguard as Eri's friend. Say hello to Sushui's Vanguard squad. Oh yeah. I'm not killing Magn off, by the way. I think it would be better in the long run. That's all the spoilers you'll get from me. On with the story. Into the story. Ready? Begin. Midnight cracked her whip, and Monoma blasted forward with Bakugo's quirk. How did you? Monoma grinned as he threw a few punches. It's easy to do when you just have to touch somebody. Walk by and pat him on the back. I've only got 2 minutes with this, but that'll be enough. His blows were dodged by Mina, who leapt out of the way and threw a glob of acid. The substance splashed across Monoma's arm, making it become a little red. The blonde smiled. As I thought. Your quirk could cause a lot of harm to somebody. All it can do right now is annoy me. Mina gritted her teeth. I have to dial it back. I don't want to melt his arm off. Mina saw the boy approach and instantly got an idea. But who said I needed to hit him? I could just have the ground do it for me. The pink student threw a glob of acid at Monoma's feet. The blonde took one step and slipped, falling flat on his face. The crowd laughed a little. Nice trick. But it won't happen again. Monoma shouted, getting up. He took another step and slipped, again. The crowd roared. So what are their quirks? Tetsuya asked. I mean, I know Monomas, but what quirks has he copied? Wait, a copy quirk? Those are so rare. Mirko looked at the struggling blonde. Do Monoma. Izuka muttered. His quirk is copy. He can copy up to 3 quirks at his current level, and can hold on to each of them for roughly 5 minutes. He's copied Bakugo's quirk, Explosion. And it looks like he's got Shiozaki's quirk. As well as Tsuyasui's quirk. How can you be so sure? Toga asked. Look at his wrist. He's got one of Shiozaki's vines. Probably a way to access her DNA. Asui's quirk makes sense in this situation, it's got an advantage against acid. Because she's a frog. He's done his research on Class 1A. Hatsum muttered. He is a threat. But Mina is more experienced with her own personal quirk than Monoma is with 3 borrowed ones. Hopefully she can bring him down. Mirko nodded slowly. Okay. What's the pink one's quirk? Hatsum gave a hum. Mina Ashido. Her quirk is acid. She can secrete acid from her skin. She also has control over the acid's properties, such as viscosity and potency. She's pretty limited in fights, because without any control she could melt a person's skin away. This is a really good show from her, because it's emphasizing how much control she has with her quirk, as well as different ways it could be put to use. You wouldn't expect acid to work as some type of melee weapon, but make it way more solid, and you can stretch it into a whip, or make a sort of restraint. Pretty versatile if you just think about ways to use it. That quirk seems to be way more versatile than anybody really thinks. A powerful weapon to have. Her strongest weapon isn't her quirk. Izuka said. It's her personality. She acts ditzy all the time, plays nice and dumb. But she's experienced. She knows her capabilities, and has figured out ways to surpass them. What about that? Tetsu pointed to Monoma, who had finally gotten up, and was now throwing vines at Mina. Well. Looks like he might have some experience with one of those quirks after all. That could be a problem. Hatsum said. Toga nodded. Definitely. He can grow vines without a care in the world, but generating all that acid must take a toll on Ashido's skin. That's been his plan from the beginning. Izuka grunted. Make her hands irritated enough. This is another battle of endurance. Tetsu looked down at the field. Who will give out first? The one with a time limit on quirks? Or the one with a time limit on their body? Mina grit her teeth as she finally managed to hit the hairs on Monoma's wrist. The vine bracelet fell away. The other hair disappeared. Got it. Finally. Mina cheered. Then she felt her hands crackle. Shit. They already reached their limit. Monoma grinned as he saw her face. You've reached your limit. Mine now. Vines sprouted from the ground and whipped towards Mina. The pink girl backflipped out of the way, landing on her toes. My hands may be dried out. But I'm still able to fight. The girl jumped out of the way as yet another wave of vines swept towards her. Okay. First step. Lose the shoes. Mina untied her sneakers and spun out of the way of an attack. She kicked off her shoes towards her opponent, who knocked them away with vines. Okay, now just glide. Mina generated acid on her feet, and began skating around the arena, dodging attacks. Nto's hold on Shiozaki's quirk slipped. He was left with one more. Alright. Time to end this. Monoma's tongue shot out, towards Mina, who jumped and spun. The attack missed her as she just hopped, spun, and pirouetted away. Okay. He's got 2 minutes. Izuka couldn't help but smirk at Mina's movements. It's as if she's figure skating. Mirko smiled. You're right. She's experienced. Izuka nodded. Judging by the time it took her hands to give out, and the time that Monoma has, I think she's got this. Tetsu grinned. About time somebody knocked that guy down a few pegs. He's always starting fights with other classes and shit. It's annoying. I kinda wanted to face him. But now I think the pink girl seems more fun. Toga smiled. She's definitely one to keep. What do you think, Yumi? Hatsum asked. Yeah. She'll be a hero in our world. Monoma lashed out once again with his tongue. But it shrank back, to its normal size. Shit. Mina noticed his lack of attacks and circled him a few times, before rushing in. Alrighty. I'll make this quick. Mina slid onto her back, slipping under Monoma and grabbing his legs. She stomped her feet into the ground and launched herself over him, pulling him upside down, before throwing him up into the air. Monoma flew into the ground as Mina jumped up above him, and punched with everything she had. Chloric barrage. Monoma lay in a small crater, unconscious. Midnight cracked her whip. No, Monoma is unable to continue. Mina Ashido wins. Just barely. Mina whispered under her breath. The pink student raised her fist and walked off of the stage, eager to get to the infirmary. Good match. Mirko grinned. Definitely showed off her stronger points. If she can fight a person with 3 quirks, she's going to get quite a bit of attention. Tetsu said. She still needs work. Toga muttered. Yeah. I don't think she's right for our group anyways. She's nice to us. But it just wouldn't be good for her. Izuka said. Yeah. It's her nature to be nice and bubbly. She's also got a pretty good life going. There's no reason to change that, Hatsune agreed. So who's up next? Izuka asked. It's your favorite. Toga grinned. Katsuki Bakugo. Versus who? Momoyarazu? Hatsune said. No matter who wins, it'll be fun to beat the shit out of them. Present Mick announced the fighters. Both of them walked into the arena. Bakugo flexed his hands, letting off a few tiny explosions. Yaozu looked the boy up and down, before nodding and taking on a defensive stance. Ready? Begin. Midnight cracked her whip, and the battle began. Bakugo rocketed towards Yaozu, who brought up her hand to catch him. In her left hand, she generated a staff. Bakugo reversed his hands and planted his foot on Yaozu's arm. Using the girl as a springboard, he backflipped, narrowly avoiding a strike from Yaozu's staff. The creation user dashed towards the blonde, whirling her staff around herself, before planting the end of it in the ground, and vaulting on top of Bakugo. The blonde saw it coming, and had performed a rather daring move, where he rolled onto his hands and kicked upwards. The blow sent Yaozu into the air. Bakugo rolled back to his feet and leapt up, punching Yaozu in the stomach. Ow! God, son of a Yaozu had generated a metal plate on her stomach. Bakugo had popped his knuckles on it with his punch. Bold move. Yaozu smiled. The girl grabbed Bakugo's arm and threw him back downwards. Bakugo landed on his feet and immediately shot an explosion upwards, before leaping out of the way. Yaozu came down on the spot he had just been in with a strong kick. Bakugo grinned. Well, you're better than I thought. High class. Those two have some moves. Hatsune giggled. It's like they're dancing. HMMPH. They definitely know what they're doing. Toga grouched. That Bakugo kid. His fighting ability is impressive. Mirko said. There's only one thing I want to see from him today. Izuka growled, looking towards the teachers' seats at All Might. I want to see him use that power. Izuka's attention was drawn back to the fight as yet another explosion rocked the arena. Not good enough. She knows my attacks too well. Bakugo dodged a swipe from Yaozu's staff. He dodged right into a grenade, which threw him back with a sizable explosion. I need to use one for all. But can I risk doing that? My body won't hold up. Bakugo leapt to the side as Yaozu hurled another grenade. An explosion, comparable to one of his own, blasted a chunk out of the arena floor. Rubble from the blast hit Bakugo in the back, launching him forward a few feet. I can't. All Might. I can't use it like you. Wait. Bakugo stopped moving and allowed Yaozu's next attack to hit him. The creation used came down with her staff, which Bakugo caught. I've been looking at this all wrong. I'm not All Might. Bakugo whispered hoarsely. Well duh. None of us are. Yaozu huffed. To think that. Sorry Yaozu. I've been thinking about it all wrong. My second quirk. I've been comparing its power to All Might's. I've been thinking about using it all at once. Like a switch. But now that I realize what I've been doing wrong. Ieyaru's eyes went wide as orange sparks outlined Bakugo. They started on his hands, then moved up his arms onto his entire body. Bakugo blinked as his pupils began to dilate. His irises sparked, and suddenly, the sparks surrounding him ignited into a storm of orange lightning. The metal staff in Bakugo's hand bent under the force of his super-powered grip. "Come on, Ieyaru," Bakugo huffed. His eyes locked onto the girl, who became rooted in place. "Give me your best shot." Toshinori watched as Ieyaru trapped Bakugo in a corner. Her quirk is so versatile. How did she gain such skill in a fight? He wondered aloud. From what Aizawa told me, some of the students in 1A went on to train themselves as much as they could. Some asked their teacher for martial arts weapons, others brought other aspects of their lives into their fighting styles. A perfect example of that was young Mina Ashido. Nezu said. She took dance classes at a young age, and actually teaches some classes on Wednesdays. Her fighting style is connected to moves that she made up using Aizawa martial arts and dance moves. Incredible. Young Kirishima increased his stamina and his physical endurance. Ieyaru must have worked on her in-battle analyzation skills, as well as her hand-to-hand combat. They've been taught well. Toshinori smiled. They are truly going to be the greatest generation of heroes. Nezu nodded. With what they have to face, there is no doubt that they will make history. Whether they win or lose, they will make their mark. Toshinori turned back to the fight, where Bakugo had stopped moving. What is he? Look at his hands, they're sparking. Nezu grinned. Is his quirk failing? Oh, I'd say that it's the opposite. Nezu grinned. A storm of orange lightning erupted from the blonde. He's figured it out. Toshinori's eyes widened, and he grinned. Young Bakugo. You've done it. Izuka watched the sparks fly from Bakugo's hands. That's it. That's what I've been waiting for. What? Mirko pondered. Sparks? Whoa, lightning raged in the center of the arena. No. Izuka growled. There's no doubt about it. That's his power. All might. Everything's so slow. Bakugo watched as Ieyaru jumped back. He could see her generate a grenade out of her shoulder. In a flash, he was at her side. Nice try. I said give it your all. Bakugo grabbed the grenade and tossed it into the air. The explosion shook the air. Ieyaru whipped around with a punch. Her strike hit open air. Where Momo gasped as a punch hit her in the side. She barely caught herself by creating a wall. The creation user looked up to see lightning blazing around the stage. So that's how it is. Momo generated another staff and rushed in. I'll give you everything I've got. Bakugo grinned as he flashed around the arena. His skin buzzed with power. This feels like it's only 5%. But still ... such incredible power. Bakugo landed blow after blow on Ieyaru. He eventually realized she was at her limit, and caught her just before she hit the ground. The lightning ceased as Bakugo held the unconscious student. Midnight stared at the end result of the fight. What the hell was that? Katsuki Bakugo wins. The crowd roared their approval. Bakugo smiled and walked Ieyaru to the infirmary. He heard the next announcement as he walked into the hallways. After some quick cleanup, we'll be on to the last match of the preliminaries. Hang on to your hats, people. Bakugo smirked. I've done it. My first breakthrough with this power. Izuka walked into the waiting room and came face to face with Shadow Todoroki. Oh. Hi there. I was just making sure I'm all set for the second round. Seeing as I'm right after you and all. The boy gave Izuka an icy glare. The look softened as he saw her scar. You. Todoroki brought his hand to his face. Like me? Not exactly. Izuka chuckled. I think I know where you got that scar from. I didn't get mine the same way. Todoroki nodded. Sorry. I just couldn't tell from a distance. And I was distracted in the fights. You're fine. Izuka said. I was a little surprised too. Do your best out there. Todoroki gave the first genuine smile he had given in years. Of course. And Yumi, right? Izuka nodded. I'm gonna beat you. The girl smiled at Todoroki. I'll be waiting. Izuka walked out of the room and straight into the path of the wild pussycats. Oop. Oh. Sorry. Izuka said. That's fine. We are the ones who should apologize to you. Ragdoll said. We weren't acting very heroic a little while ago, so we wanted to apologize and say that we're proud of you. Proud that you proved us wrong. Izuka gave a fake smile. It's okay. I'm glad I could open your eyes a bit. Here. We wanted to take a picture as an apology. The pussycats stood behind Izuka as a spectator they had brought with them took a picture. Izuka noticed that Ragdoll and Mandalay had placed their hands on her shoulder. I get it. Well then. I hope you have a good time. Izuka bowed. Enjoy my next fight. I'll win it for you guys. The girl walked off back to her seats. The pussycats watched her go. Did you do it? Yup. With our combined monitoring, we'll be able to see what she sees. Chapter 23, Douse the flames alrighty then. On to the final match of the first round. Todoroki vs Uraraka. I will not reveal anything about my plans for Todoroki in the author's notes. What you will know will come from the story. So anyway, on to the chapter. Todoroki stepped into the hallway that led to the fighting stage. Endeavor stood a few feet to his left, leaning against a wall. His flames flickered hungrily. Shadow. You cannot win this without my power. Shadow locked eyes with his father. I don't need to use that power. I never will. Todoroki took a step down the hallway. A clap rang out as his head snapped to one side. Endeavor had slapped his son. Shadow. You will use that power. Shadow looked at his father. I told you already. I will not use it, because I don't need it. I don't need you. Endeavor gritted his teeth and grabbed Shadow's right hand, twisting it and causing it to break. Shadow gave a grunt of pain. Let's see you use your ice now. The number 2 hero walked back to his seat. Shadow looked down at his hand. I don't need it. Ice encased Shadow's hand, keeping it in place. With his hand stabilized, he walked down the hallway and emerged onto the field. Izuka made it back to her seat and sat down. Hatsune smiled and went to talk to her, but Izuka shook her head. The scarred girl pulled out a notepad and scribbled on it furiously, before holding it up. Can't talk. Mandalay work. Listening to us. Hatsune bit her lip and growled. Toga's eyes narrowed. I'll see if I can take care of it. Mirko stood up. Izuka shook her head and scribbled again. It's fine. I just need to act like a goody two-shoes. I'll fix it soon. Mirko nodded. Okay. Did you check to make sure everything was ready? Izuka nodded. Everything's perfect? I also ran into Todoroki. Did you now? Toga smiled. He's supposed to be the strongest in one, you know. Well. I think that Katsuki Bakugo might be his equal now. Izuka chuckled. Look. There he is. Todoroki walked onto the stage. His face held an emotionless expression. His right arm was encased in ice. Izuka's eyes narrowed as she saw the ice. Something's wrong. What do you, Hatsune? Use your quirk and zoom in on his hand. Hatsune nodded. Her pupils dilated and she stared at the boy. That's an odd angle. His hand is broken. He is keeping it stable by coating it in ice. Izuka gritted her teeth. He was fine when I saw him. Her eyes snapped to a flickering figure that emerged from the stadium hallways. Endeavor. It's time for the final match of the first round. These two competitors are sure to give you a show. The girl WHO defies gravity. Literally. It's Okako Uraraka. And her opponent is the cold son of the number 2 hero. Shadow, Todoroki. Izuka bit her lip. I really hope you can pull this off. Ready? Midnight cracked her whip. Begin. A wave of ice swept outward from Shadow. Uraraka touched her hands together and leapt up, dodging the attack. And so it begins. Todoroki starts out with a powerful ice attack, only for it to be dodged by Uraraka. She's got a good head on her. Probably trained like the rest of them, Mirko muttered. What's her quirk? Hatsune pulled out a camera and took a picture of Uraraka as she dropped down. Okako Uraraka. Her quirk is zero gravity. She can take away the effect of gravity on any object she touches. It gives her some serious vertigo though. Her weight limit is around 3 tons, probably more by now. Uraraka landed and broke an icicle off of the ground, hurling it at Todoroki. The boy rolled to one side. Okay. The boy obviously has some sort of ice quirk. Mirko said. Todoroki. The youngest son of Endeavor. Izuka said. His quirk is half cold, half hot. He can generate fire on his left side, and ice on his left. He hasn't used any fire yet. Mirko observed. His father's an ass. Probably some bad blood there. Izuka said. I hate to imagine his siblings. At the same time, Izuka scribbled on a notepad. After a minute, she held it up. Shito's eldest brother is named Tuya. He's thought to be dead. A quirk malfunction. In reality, he's part of our group. He goes by Dobby, but you'd know him as the Pyromancer. Mirko nodded. I'd like to meet some of his siblings. I wanna learn more about the number 2 hero and his family. Uraraka dodged another wave of ice. Todoroki, why are you just going with floor attacks? Shito only grunted and launched another wave. Uraraka noticed a glint on his right arm. Why is it frozen? Todoroki. I will win this. Okako vaulted off of a spire of ice, launching herself at the son of Endeavor. All it takes is one touch. Okako hit Todoroki in the chest, all 5 fingers fell on his body, and gravity left him. I've won. Okako said. No. Not yet. Shito was still on the ground. His eyes anchored him to the ring. Wow. Todoroki uses his eyes as an anchor. What a chilling strategy. Okako felt her legs grow cold. Well then. I guess I lost. The girl was encased in ice. Midnight cracked her whip. Uraraka is unable to battle. Todoroki wins the match. The crowd roared. Todoroki thawed the stadium. Okako smiled as she regained movement. Well now. You beat me. Todoroki only nodded. Pain spiked through his arm, but he ignored it. Okako's eyes widened. Your hand shhhhhh. Todoroki smiled. It's okay. It just happened during the fight. Okako bit her lip. I'll walk with you to the infirmary. Tell me there. The two walked off of the field. Nobody realizing what Shito was fighting with. Nobody. Except Izuka's group. So ends the first round. We'll see you all in a half hour. Now. A word from our sponsors. Let's go. Izuka walked down the hallway. Her friends walked at her side. So, where are we going? Mirko asked. Infirmary. Obviously. Izuka said. Remember to keep quiet. The group nodded, and walked into the medical room. Todoroki was sitting on the side of a hospital bed, talking to Okako. Recovery girl and Ru weren't around. Izuka noticed that Todoroki's wrist was still broken. Ahem. The boy turned, and went wide-eyed. Oh. Yumi. Okako looked at the group, and looked away. I should apologize for blowing up earlier. Mineta just got on my nerves. Toga smiled. That's why Yumi's here. To scare him. Izuka gave a fake smile and nodded, before walking to Todoroki's side and grabbing his arm. The boy winced in pain. The injury was worse than Izuka thought. Endeavor hadn't just broken his wrist, he's burned it pretty badly. This is gonna scar. Izuka said. Was it him? Todoroki bit his lip and nodded. He wants you to use your fire, right? Todoroki looked up with tears in his eyes. His expression was one of rage. He wants me to use his power. That curse made him who he is. He took my mother away. He's not a hero, he's a villain. Izuka nodded, hiding the feeling of ironic joy in her mind. He's an ass. Wait. Endeavor? But isn't he supposed to be? He's consumed by his need to be great. Shito growled. You've heard of quirk marriages, yes? That's what he did. Multiple children, none with the perfect quirk. Until me. What happened to your siblings? Mirko pondered. The first. Tuya. He died. His quirk was too strong. 3 times the power of Endeavor's flames, but they burned him too. Once Dad found out, he cast him aside. When I was born, Tuya was still alive. He took care of us, and then his quirk malfunctioned, and destroyed him. Okiko gasped. Hello Mandalay. I know you heard all of that. Izuka thought. A few seconds later, a voice spoke in her mind. How did you? You never really did trust me. I notice a lot of things you don't. I'm a little disappointed that you used your quirk on me. I'm sure you understand why. I don't care. I have nothing to hide. Keep this a secret for now. Okay. My other siblings, well, they didn't get super powerful quirks. Very useful, sure. But Dad forbid them to train. They weren't allowed to be heroes. And now there's me. The perfect child. Training beaten into me. My mother, he drove her crazy. She lost control and poured boiling water on my left side, scarring me forever. It was all his fault. I won't use his cursed power. Izuka placed her hand on Shito's shoulder. You may not agree with me. But what you've been given isn't a curse. It's a gift. Shito growled. How would you know? You don't know anything. The room grew cold. A bit of frost crept up Izuka's arm. Izuka nodded. It's true. I don't know. I don't have your experiences. I only have my own. I'm an only child. Now an orphan. My mom died a few years ago. My dad couldn't give a damn because I'm quirkless. I used to think just like you. Izuka smiled sadly. It's a curse. No power that I lucked into. Treated as less every day. So I decided to ignore everybody, and just be my own person. Okiko shuddered. Why does she sound so sad? Empty. Todoroki shivered as Izuka ran a finger down his scar. So when I first met you, I said that I wasn't the same. Because I don't have what you have. No family. No power. No real father to call my own. Do you want to know how I really got my scar? Todoroki nodded slowly. How? I gave up. I began seeing myself as nothing but a waste of space. I attempted to set off an explosion and kill myself. Mandalay gasped in Izuka's mind. Todoroki was visibly shaken. How did you survive, with just that scar? Izuka gave sadly smiled. I turned away at the last minute. I managed to get far enough away before the explosion happened. Uraraka held her head in her hands, her eyes wide. She knows. And I was one of the people to yell at her. She's seen the real world. Forget seen, she's already ingrained in that world. Izuka stroked Todoroki's cheek with her thumb. Shito. Your fire. It isn't a curse. It's a gift. Remember that. Izuka stood up as the door to the infirmary burst open. An angry Endeavor stood in the doorway. Finally, found you. He growled. Go away. Shito said weakly. Ah. Yumi Shodai. Have you considered my offer? Endeavor made a grand display as he walked to the center of the room. Izuka stood up, her face dark. She stalked towards the large man. Yumi. What are? Shito reached out. Toga grabbed his hand and shook her head. Let her handle it. Izuka stood in front of Endeavor. Endeavor. The flame hero, smiled. Have you finally Mandalay? Yes? Keep this a secret too. Izuka punched Endeavor in the stomach, making him double over. You're the worst scum I've ever come across. You're the reason that people like the hero killer stain exist. They want to purge the world of fake heroes. And if I were like them, you'd be dead already. You. Coughed air. Izuka punched the man in the face, before grabbing his hair. You broke your son's wrist because you are a control freak. I shudder to think how many people you threatened to get to the number 2 spot. Endeavor snarled as his flames raged on his shoulders. How dare you? This is illegal. Todoroki watched with wide eyes as the quirkless girl overpowered his father in 2 quick moves. You will find out very soon that I can lash out in self-defense. Izuka's lips curled into a sadistic smile. I don't have a quirk, so I'm not breaking any self-defense laws. Endeavor grabbed Izuka's arm with his right hand and channeled some heat into it. Flames flicked across Izuka's arm. Huh. That tickles. Izuka grabbed the hero's wrist and squeezed as hard as she could, shattering the hero's wrist. Endeavor grunted in pain. Oh look, you match. You bitch. I'll make sure that you become mine, and I'll force you to make a new generation with Shadow. With my power, they'll shut up. Izuka punched Endeavor in the face, dislocating his jaw. You think that you can monologue about your plans that literally add up to sex trafficking? Endeavor fixed his jaw. Nobody will care. You're quirkless. Izuka's pupil shrank and she punched the flame hero again. You are scum. Shito's power is his, not yours. He's a decent human being. Unlike you. The flame hero gave a harsh laugh. Who are you to call me scum quirkless? You're less. You always will be. I've had enough. I know I'm less. I always have been. Izuka's skin glowed dully for a moment. Her hair seemed to rise just a bit. Which is why I'm destined to become more. Izuka pulled Endeavor up to his feet and kicked him right in the crotch. The flame hero sailed out of the infirmary and crashed into the outside wall, unconscious. Recovery girl and Rue rushed in. What the hell is going on in here? Izuka stretched. Sorry. Just making sure that the animal isn't allowed to have any more children, seeing as he abuses them. Recovery girl went to knock Izuka on the head, but the girl caught her cane. Listen. Todoroki needs medical assistance. Endeavor crushed his wrist before the fight. Chio's eyes widened. He did what? Mirko coughed. I can confirm. He also talked about forcing Yumi into making a new generation of heroes. Everybody else nodded silently. I didn't see you there, Mirko. Now that I'm hearing about it, it makes sense why you beat him up. I will have to heal him though. Everybody nodded. Mirko rolled her eyes. Am I invisible? Why do people keep forgetting about me? Let me see Shadow. Recovery girl walked over to the boy and took a look at his wrist. My goodness. This is uncalled for. He should have his license revoked. Todoroki shook his head. Please don't. He'll kill me. Recovery girl looked the boy in the eyes. Don't you worry. We'll make sure he can't hurt you. She turned around in her chair. Rue, Yumi, Mirko. Bring Enji in here. I'll heal Todoroki. Rue nodded, while Mirko and Izuka rolled their eyes. They went and dragged Endeavor into the room. Chio kissed Todoroki's hand, and his wrist healed. Take some gummies. I'm sorry, but you'll have some scarring on your wrist from the burn. Todoroki bit his lip and nodded, before looking at Endeavor. Really? No hospital bed? There should be one big enough. Recovery girl started. He doesn't deserve it. Recovery girl nodded. Rue, you help me. You all should get back to the festival. I know that your match is coming up next, Yumi. Izuka nodded and walked to the doorway. Shadow. When you fight me, I want to see you use your power. Shadow nodded. I will. I promise. Then win your next match. Izuka bowed. Thank you for allowing me to explain myself, Recovery girl. The nurse smiled. No problem. You should go. The second round starts in 10 minutes. Izuka walked out of the infirmary towards the waiting room. Mandalay. Do you mind? Also ragdoll. I'll let you redo your quirks after my fight. Fine. Izuka felt the quirks lift from her. That's better. Now, to beat Ashido. Todoroki and Uraraka walked back to the seats together. Hatsumi had said that Yumi would find them after her battle. Todoroki. Are you sure that you're okay? Okuko asked. You've been through a lot. And that? Are you sure that you're okay? Okuko asked. You've been through a lot. And that girl has been through a lot more. She doesn't have a quirk. She doesn't have this power. She was right, it isn't a curse. I'll use it. I'll use it to become a hero. Okuko smiled and gave Todoroki a quick peck on the cheek. The boy blushed. What was that for? Okuko smiled. You just sounded really cool. Did you like it? Todoroki gave Uraraka a peck back. I think I did. The two walked back to their seats, eager to witness the next battle.